Back. Hey guys, can everyone hear me? I think we're back. Hopefully this should be better. We lower the settings on a ton of different stuff. Hi Nerlin, and then hi Tom. uh, hey, hey Yoda, and then DC Gaming. Do you have any tips to grow my channel? Any tips will help me a lot. So I guess all I would say um, for that specifically is try to just make consistent content, let people know what you're doing, find relevant communities like when I started, I was in a lot of like either like lefty discords or stuff. And I would hey guys, like look, I did this, like would like to see it. um if you have hey, much better, nice. If you have any like specific what's it called? If you have any specific interests, you'll normally find other like-minded people on Reddit or something like that. And so I know it might be intimidating, like to post your stuff into like the void, but if you want to more like eyes on your stuff, it's easier like to get your stuff noticed. And then again, networking is important, like Tom just said. So if you say something, or if you see other people doing the same thing, you should probably see other people doing the same thing. Say something. So hopefully that could help out a lot with that. So, okay, so I think we're back and we're moving. Let me see if I can bring in We're in Hell back. We're in Hell, can you hear me? I can't hear you. This is so weird. One second. Let me see if I can fix my...
Huh.
Oh, there we go. I got you.
Okay.
Now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
I mean, yeah. I'm here. Do you want me to give some advice in like growing channel stuff too? I'd like.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like you're like 10 times bigger than me, so like of course, yeah. Just a master right
I'm happy
here.
to throw out a bit. Yeah. I mean, like I'm certainly non-master. I will say though, like everything you said is true. Definitely like network with everyone, but also like when you're small, like a thing to sort of keep in mind is that like SEO matters a lot more. Like no one's really looking at your stuff for your stuff like right now. So it's like if you've got something that like don't chase like whatever's hot because like you want to actually make something good, but also definitely consider like this is something that like people are talking about, like that can help you a lot right now. But yeah, otherwise just be yourself,
Right.
you know. And also, no one understands how the algorithm actually works.
Absolutely true. Like, oh my gosh, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Um.
No one gets
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I will say though that like, I think Chill Goblin might be in the chat too. You might, yeah, if he's free, you might want to pull him in too. But I don't know. But fuck that guy. my very good friend. But no, yeah, like I will say, like, Chill Goblin and I both are like stand-up comedians who like came into like BreadTube from there, and it like blows my mind just how much better of a community this is than people are like so down to help in this. It really is like beautiful. So yeah, it's never hurts to hit people up. Like everyone's like so nice. We like Radical Reviewers in the chat too. One of the nicest people ever.
The best.
Yeah.
Actually, like Brad was the first breadtuber who like responded to my. I saw like they randomly had subscribed to me one day, and I was like, oh my god, holy shit, because like I'd seen them before. I was like,
literally exact same thing happened to me.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild.
Brad was the first person who ever, like gave me any support too. Just an all around amazing person.
I think Rad's actually in the chat right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
bring in Rad.
They want to bring in Rad?
I mean, I don't know. It's your stream.
Oh wait, no, Rad's gone. We got socialism done left, and Starling's waiting in the chat. So we can any last words you wanna hit?
No, check out our Twitch channel. Chill Goblin and I started a Twitch channel called The Goat and the Goblin. I think our next stream is going to be on Sunday. I believe we're going to have Unlearning Economics on.
Ooh.
But yeah.
That's awesome. He had that really awesome video talking about housing, right? I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have a few cool people. We've got like a few big guests on. We'd love to have you on at some point too. But yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. Have a good night. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No problem. All right, peace out.
So then, all right, we're gonna Starling and socialism. Who was there first? I just want to make sure I'm pulling in the right person. I don't want to make someone wait longer than they've already have waited. Oh, Discord link. Back. All right. I'll pull in socialism first.
Good.
There you are.
Oh my God, Hans.
I'm so sorry. Like I didn't realize how much of like being a bimbo and a boomer would like mess with me so bad. You know, like I needed my like literal tech support while this was happening. I'm completely helpless. There's nothing here to help me. I'm messing it up, man. I don't know what to do. I'm alone. I'm sad.
Oh, no worries.
I'm scared. You know.
One thing you could do is literally just if you press Control Shift Escape, bring up a control panel.
Really?
Or is that control? What is it called? Task Manager.
Hmm.
Just see what your CPU looks like, and if it's high, just close some programs.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like I recently restarted. I haven't played any games or anything. I'm not sure what it like it would be freaking out about. So.
Well, what I'm saying is you've got Chrome tabs open, and Chrome tabs are notorious like CPU hogs. Modern browsers all are.
Oh,
so
okay.
it could be that your video is like, so on Twitch, your video is like frozen and it actually went down for around like 10 minutes. I don't know about YouTube, but
oh yeah, okay.
In short, there might be like a bottleneck with your CPU. So if you just look and CPU's at like 100%, you got to close something. That's the basic.
Okay. That's really
solution.
Cool. I know that. I can. How's the quality of it right now? What do you think of my background, everybody?
I am not watching. Give me one moment.
Look at it. Anime, yes. All Might is my. I don't know if you guys can see, but this is a My Hero Academia shirt. It's UA, Go Beyond, Plus Ultra. I am the most anime of the animes. Like, I'm not sure if there's any breadtuber that's going to be more anime than me, but I can assure you that I am the most anime of all the breadtubers I know. So.
It looks like the stream is still like 30 seconds behind real life. I don't know if that's like a latency thing. Radical Reviewer said, yeah, I always close a bunch of background stuff before streaming. Okay. And the background does look good. It also reminds me of you, but with spikier hair. So.
It's like, I mean, I could spike my hair more. It's not quite long enough. Let me close some of this stuff and then we'll see.
Sure.
Oh, that's probably why. Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I didn't figure it out until just now, but I have multi-stream chat like in my thing for stuff going down. So I had both Twitch and YouTube open, so I had both my videos streaming at the same time. I was watching the stream in the chats while I was.
It can be a bad thing.
Yeah. So
just using the restream. If you go to like restream.io, and I can go get the chat link. It should work for you too.
I don't think I'm actually using it right now. I'm just using Stream.
So if you're streaming on both YouTube and Twitch, you are using Restream. Like Streamlabs is like the program, and Restream is the server that you're sending it to, and then in turn that sends it to both YouTube and Twitch. Oh, okay. And it's also running the chat.
Interesting.
No worries. If you click this, it should just be like a low frills chat. That's all.
Cool.
Sure.
What am I?
Oh, I sent you a DM. Chat.restream.io/chat. And for me, this shows my chat, but I think it should show your chat for you. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. That really does help. Having that open there. Okay, so you said you wanted to ask me a question and have a fiery debate about veganism earlier. You still want to go for that?
Sure. I guess like it sounded from what you said that like you think the moral arguments for veganism hold, but you aren't personally vegan.
It's more complicated than that for me specifically. So what I would say about I think I have. Oh yeah, I can see the chats now. So what I would say for veganism beyond just protecting animals, saving the environment, that sort of thing. I would say there is an argument. Would prefer background if it's Todoroki. I'm sorry, but Todoroki doesn't have shit on All Might, and I will fight you to the end of my days to talk about that. Like everyone loves red and white haired boy, but like You know, he had a good moment. They haven't done a lot with him since. It kind of makes me sad. I mean, like there's the Endeavor family arc, but like I don't want to spoil it in chat for people who don't know or don't like anime. So, but so I would say
Okay, weep.
we I would say specifically that you can't see my face, but I'm offended. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do this to you. But what I would say for veganism is that yes, there is harm being done, and but individually, I cannot. This is like it's not just there's no ethical consumption under capitalism argument, in that like me personally not eating meat does not mean that those animals will not be slaughtered, and like me not doing it does not like impact the supply and demand like factors of like the poultry and beef markets. Those are the two meats that I eat. So those.
So
Okay, good.
well, I was just gonna. This is an argument called the marginal argument. It's that you individually have no effect. Your marginal effect is nil or virtually nil, right?
That's not exactly where I'm going. So I'm just laying out different things. So
Okay.
So that's part of it. But I would say another part is if, as me, like in adding on to like the marginal effect argument, I think I could say that there's a ton of things that I can do that personally would have more impact than than not consuming meat, right? And so what that means is I if I'm say like if I'm picking and choosing like what I'm doing, right? Because I don't think like no one's a perfect moral actor in terms of what they're trying to do in terms of helping or fixing the world. So it seems so if I had to like choose, right? And if I'm like, okay, so I can support these types of activism, and I can support these like sorts of politicians and do these sort of electoral stuff. Excuse, I am doing those things too. So and though
Well,
so what I'm saying is then if the argument is that going vegan is like worth doing, right? And I would say that there are other things that are also worth doing. And in that case, if I get to pick and choose, right, in terms of like what I'm going to do, because if everyone's required to do every morally like acceptable good, right, we're all going to run ourselves ragged, be like doing crazy like moralist things. You know what I mean? So I would say for that specifically is that I will keep being a sad meat eater and do everything else I can or like other things that I can do more easily for me. And this is like, again, like this is like expended effort, right? Like I very much dislike vegetables. I am like, no, like I'm 5 years old. Like it's really bad. Like I like potatoes.
Hans of Hark here is going to do a cooking stream, and we're just going to see him open up his closet, and there's just going to be 5,000 boxes of macaroni and cheese, because he's literally a toddler. Holy shit.
I actually do have like, I go to Sam's
Oh
Club.
my God.
I have a 28 pack of, and it's like a 24 pack of Kraft in my
my
closet.
God.
I don't eat it very often. I'm very much a chicken and rice guy, but like I just in case, right? And my girlfriend is vegetarian, so like I had to like have vegetarian stuff for when she visits. So it's like,
Well, so I guess to me these are like two arguments that are somewhat interlinked, but why don't we start with the latter one first, which is that, hey, you're doing these other things, and to some degree there you have like a budget of like how much pain you can endure for your causes, right? And to some degree not eating meat is pain, so like you're budgeting out.
not eating meat is pain.
So I guess fundamentally the way that I would approach this is I do think that like suddenly just tomorrow eliminating meat from your diet would be pretty painful. But a lot of studies generally find that diets work best. People in the metric of retention, people stay on the diet when it's a slow dietary change. They like phase in or phase out of the diet. And so my suggestion consistently to people like you is just pick one product and remove it from your diet, or pick one product and slowly like phase it out of your diet. So I can't probably say chicken if you're eating chicken every day, but it could be something like milk or cheese. Like you could just start drinking soy milk, which is a little gross at first, but you will come to be okay with it, hopefully. Or you can try like oat milk or other kinds of vegan milk. And if you can't, you can switch back and try something else. Generally, that's like the approach I advocate for. It's a pain limiting sort of incrementalist reformist approach to your diet, because just like with political systems, reform works best for diets.
I got you. What about if I have like certain dietary requirements or goals that I have to reach that like would be much more difficult inside, like if I'm using this, right? Like,
yeah, well then,
like in the case of like say like if you could say like the nutritional quality of like almond milk in terms of like I'm speaking like specifically about like protein, because I am a big protein boy. Unless I want to eat like like a proverbial ton of like either plant-based protein shakes or like a pound of beans. It's easier for me, especially like when if I'm working or doing other things, to be able to have something like quick. At least like in the case of going full vegan, like I would say the things that are problematic that I would eat from that like perspective, right? I eat chicken, beef, eggs, milk, and cheese, right? Those are the things that I primarily eat that like would be unvegan. So if
you wanted one product to remove, it would be beef, because beef is probably an order of magnitude worse for the environment than everything else you mentioned. So just as an aside.
What if I wait 1 second? Max Wolf and Dale said, "What if I have goals of not becoming a little soy boy bitch?" Hey, there's some there's some really big there's some really big vegan bodybuilders and stuff. Like it's harder, right? Like everything, it's just more difficult. But like it's not impossible. I'm just
That's actually, so I was gonna say, so I have no experience with bodybuilding. I can't speak to your nutritional requirements there. I was gonna mention there's literally a guy called Vegan Gains who is notorious as being like a vegan debater. His whole shtick is that he's a bodybuilder and like muscular guy who eats a lot of protein. Could be he just chows down on like protein shakes. Could be he chows down on beans. In my personal life, beans have been more than plenty. Curry is a godsend. Beans and like curried beans and stuff like that. And like I don't know, I'm totally fine with that. So I can't speak to that. And if it is like your lifestyle requires that you eat like high density protein and you really want to stay with the chicken, sure. That my approach is also, it's like a minimization one. If you think that like you are eliminating chicken would like make you just abandon the whole diet, yeah, just stick with chicken and reduce the other intakes is generally the way that I would approach it. Like if I were girlfriends too or whatever, femboys socked on left entered into your life, my advocacy would be like eliminate cheese, eliminate milk, and slowly and like wean you off, as it were. So
I got you. I mean, like I said, like it makes sense. And if I have more energy, Vegan Gains is like a little bit of an eco-fash. Like I've seen some of his stuff.
Vegan Gains is very questionable.
I don't think he's a good example of like like a good vegan, right? Well, this is like
specifically for the context of like getting protein. I'll recommend him. I don't know if I can recommend him for much else.
I got it. So this kind of like goes back to like into like what I was saying like for like in the argument, right? That like if you have someone who is a vegan but like low-key like eco-fascist, as opposed to like like a good old like social democrat Hanz boy over here who
it would be much better if they were a social democrat than if they were like if they changed their diet. I totally agree. Right? Like in the grand scheme of things, veganism, your personal veganism. I'm
so much better at this than he is. Like why are you not like giving me all the props for being better than I could have been? It's so much.
Well, and that's why the reason I'm framing this in terms of incremental stuff is people very rapidly adjust to their new like situations. People come to like the taste of the things that they eat over time. People come to like their living circumstances over time. So if you change it, you will come to believe you aren't experiencing any pain, even though right now shifting to a more vegetable heavy diet will cause you and your 5-year-old inner brain quite a bit of pain.
Oh my god, that's fair. I
guess I don't want to go on too long for this too much. Just on the marginal argument, this is actually, I think the marginal impact argument is interesting because it's actually something people say about voting. It's my individual vote doesn't matter, and yet you and I seem to be pretty in favor of advocating voting right in general, right?
Yes, but I would say there's a difference in that. Say me, it's like pulling the lever for someone. It's a very easy choice as opposed like an entirely like lifestyle choice, and also throwing like over Joe Biden over like a proto-fascist or whatever, like you want to call Trump in technical terms, like is I would say is considerably better like as a decision, and it's easier, right? So like again, like we're looking at things on a case by case basis. I totally agree with you that like both are good like things to do, but it's like I would say it's almost uncomparable in terms of like the ease of which one votes for Joe Biden versus like right, like changing one's lifestyle. And again, like it is worthy of doing. It's just like it, and I can't debate you on the morality of doing that specifically. I can just like give you a bunch of caveats about like real world implications that make it more difficult, and like there are other things that potentially might be worth doing more. But yeah,
no, basically, I do agree. There are things that are more important than veganism. Like even though agriculture has a big impact on CO2, so does like industrial production. Advocating for green policies there also has an enormous impact. Totally agree. Being like a social democrat, much better than being a fascist. The goal is kind of all just like, if I were to slightly reform Hans in the right direction, what would be it that I push you for? And it'll be like, I don't know, stop eating cheese or something.
But I love cheese. Cheese is so good.
If I had to recommend one thing, as an aside, I'm a freegan in that I don't. If you've already purchased a food product, I don't care that you consume it. So I don't care if you eat all like the cheese in your closet, right? All the 48 craft boxes or whatever. All I was going to note is if you're ever making like grilled cheese or like a cheeseburger, the vegan cheeses they put out are pretty bad in general, but they're pretty good when melted, actually. So the only recommendation I would have is if you're going to do vegan cheese, please try to grill it or in some other way heat it up, or else it sucks. It's really, really bad.
This doesn't make me want to go vegan. Like, you're failing. I feel like I'm like, put this like sock done left, like just absolutely destroyed by Debate Pro about how like veganism. Thanks, babe. 1 second, my boy just made me dinner. Like there's food, but it's fried rice. But
it's a pretty cute girlfriend.
Oh, that's OG Salt. That's not my girlfriend. But,
well, it's girlfriend number 3. It's right. Fanboy number 2.
I have a harem. Like, if you want to be part of my harem, join my Discord. But
well, I don't want to take too much of your time, and I think Starling wanted to talk with you a little bit.
Of course,
so,
of course.
I'll probably head off.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for being on. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Sure. And feel free to compensate me anytime for my labor in fixing the IT for your stream. Okay.
I'm doing.
Have a good evening.
You didn't do anything. I did. Like my guy did this. I'll see you later.
See ya.
All right, Starling, we're pulling you in. Hello.
Oh my god.
How you doing?
I'm doing alright, Hanz.
What are you curious about? What do you want to ask me?
Oh, I was gonna ask, what books you read, like outside of the ones you review on your channel,
So,
and if you were ever gonna review any of those.
so there's a couple things that I take into account when I'm trying to like make books for review. So there's a couple of books that I've read, right, that I haven't reviewed. Like I read, there's 2 books that I've read that are probably among the best books I've read this entire year. But the material itself is so thick and dense that I very much struggle with being able to like actively like put it out there, right? Because up until this point, I've been good at keeping all of my videos under 10 minutes, right? Don't give to YouTube any monetization. Like, I am a free laborer, so I'm not gonna like let them advertise off of me. Hopefully, right? I don't know if any people see ads on my videos, but what I go for those, like, I don't feel like I can do the book itself like justice, right? So if I'd say review Capital in the 21st Century by Thomas Piketty, which I read this year and absolutely loved, I can't. The man has, it's 600 pages. There's like 16 chapters of each amazing like points. So it's very difficult for me to be able to both give his text and give an interpretation of it that isn't just me summarizing his work in a way that I feel like would be satisfying to the audience. So like I can't. So even though I love that book and I would absolutely recommend that you read it, until I start doing like say longer form videos, I can't like in good faith make a video because I'm not giving people like the full extent of like what it is. So yeah. So see, Blinksy says I honestly like the longer reviews. I am considering like doing longer form stuff. A lot of it is sort of like time constraints, and like up until this point, like I did want to keep it under 10 minutes, like for brevity's sake, right? And unless some like as I get bigger, I feel like people get more confidence in my material, and I can do more experimental or expressive stuff that is longer. I hate no radical reviewer. Hey, not all of us can make 40-minute videos on a 40-page book. I don't even know how you did that. That was like absolutely crazy. But so that's those are kind of my thought process. As I might start, like I said, I might start changing the format. I'm going to hopefully I'm going to be streaming regularly, like starting this week, about different stuff, talking about news, or like we could do deeper dives on books, and hopefully during that time I'll have more time, especially in a long form discussion, like to hit on those things. And I think that will provide something that's more long in terms of someone who really wants to do a deep dive. I can't imagine someone that would want to listen to my voice for more than say 10 minutes at a time. So I really got to be I've been cautious up until now, but all the positive reinforcement is making my head go way up there. So, but yeah,
for inflating your ego.
So just really appreciate if they're watching me, they're probably accustomed to long bread tube videos. Bad apple, that's a good point. I guess like if everyone's used to like 30-minute philosophy tube videos, then a 15-minute book review from Hans is gonna be the thing is like I just don't have Ollie's like raw sexual energy, so like I'm not sure how I can keep people engaged for that long. So
Just go shirtless.
I thought about that, but like I didn't want to like scare people away. You know what I mean? Also, like I'm not exactly proud of my physique right now. Like I'm a bit fluffy since COVID happened. I'm like before COVID, I was in the gym like 3 hours a day, like 5 days a week. It was a lot, and now I'm just kind of trying to stay. Like I go jogging, like trying to make sure I don't like turn into like a big round ball. But I don't know. So, do you have any other specific questions, or do you? Oh, hey,
Not really.
cool. Well, I really appreciate. Is there any like last things you want to like plug or shout out or?
No, I don't have anything to plug.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. All right. So I think Goblin and Rat. Which of you were here first? I want to pull the right one. Who needs abs if you got an AK? I don't know because like I'm actually so jacked that bullets just bounce off of me. Like didn't think that, did you? All right. I'm gonna pull in Goblin. How's it going, dude? Goblin? Aging Goblin? Can you hear me? I believe. He's in the chat. I just... Wait. Yep. I see me. If he says something, you guys can maybe just, all watch me eat. I know there's a market for that, right? You just see me eating rice.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
How you doing? Did you, we're in Hell and I were talking earlier, do you play Magic the Gathering too?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't play Magic. I remember when that was like big, when I was like in grade 4. I thought about getting into it. Played it once at my friend's house.
It's pretty good, but it's not worth it. It's like crack, but sad because you don't get a high off of it. You just like buy cards that are pretty much useless, but they cost tens of dollars per card.
If it's like crack but sad, that sounds like the saddest thing on earth.
Like I didn't like because crack's already pretty sad. Like
that means like crack is like Magic the Gathering but happy.
I wouldn't go that far. It's just like sadder. Like, it's a spectrum, right? So what did you do? Are there any particular questions you have, or something you want to hit or debate me on?
Yeah, I got a question. Who do you think you are? Yeah, okay, but seriously, actually, I do have a question. Because you put out a lot of videos and you do a lot of reading. Like you read like a full book every week, and then you write and record like a video. So do you have like a schedule, like a posting, like, or do you have like a daily, like I have to have the book done by Friday, and then I have to do the whatever?
Yes and no. Yes, and that I try to, right? Because obviously, the week format's like a pretty like taxing schedule in terms of like making the content. So I really try to have the book done by Thursday or Friday at like the latest, and then have my script done by Saturday, and then do like all the recording on Saturday, like hopefully, but like normally it's on Sunday, and then my editor like packages it and we like have it ready to go like Sunday night, and then we just like set it to like the premiere on Monday. But some days, like some weeks, I get busy or like there's work or like one week I live in Florida, so I was here during a hurricane and I lost power for 5 days. So while that was happening, I couldn't exactly do stuff. So I was reading and recording and like writing the script all like Monday morning at like 4 a.m. So some days it's some weeks are harder than others, and also like some books are like harder than others because some books, right, they're 200 pages and I can crank that out in 3 hours. Like when I did my first review with a helping radical reviewer, and it was on Democracy at Work by Richard Wolff. It's a great book, and it's also 160 pages. So I finished it in literally 2 hours. So it just like
damn, that's so fast.
I have I'll show you everyone on stream sometime. I have a word runner function. I don't have physical books because I like money is kind of like buying all those books are expensive. So, and I don't pirate anything. So
Yeah, cyberbooks.
yeah, cyberbooks. So I did book reading process. Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, you actually told me about. I was asking you about this before. You told me about your word runner, and I
Yeah.
started using it, and like it's basically like shows you every individual word in a book, like an ebook, one at a time, really really fast. And I got it up to like I don't know. I can read comfortably at like 325 words or something like that. I think what is it per minute?
Yeah, per minute.
Words per minute, 325. Damn, maybe that sounds like pretty long to me. But anyway, but like, what's your number? How many words do you read per minute on that?
I try and increase it like every every week or so, like just a. Right now, I'm super comfortable at like 550, but what I've been reading at like just to like test myself, I'm up to 625 like a minute, so I can read
625. Damn.
well just like otherwise I don't have time, right? It's like if you're using the word runner like at anything past 300 words a minute, if you look away for a second, you can't like do anything else, right? So like when you're reading, you're reading.
Oh yeah. I know. No way. You can't look. You can't even blink. You
Yeah.
can't even like have a thought for a second. You gotta just keep staring at the word and just downloading all this information into your brain, like the Matrix.
Yeah. So just like just like beaming straight into your head. And so when I'm thinking about that process, like if I'm just reading, I want to make it as efficient as possible. So normally what I do, like I don't really sit down and read for more than say 30 minutes or an hour at a time, because like it's physically, it's mentally exhausting, like especially when it starts going that fast. Like I'll do a chapter and finishes in about 8 minutes and it's like and then like I'll put it down for 5 minutes, like just like look around, and then I'll like do it again, and I'll do it like 3 times like over the course of an hour, and then like I'll add a couple pages. Like right now the and some books like are really difficult to get through like in a quick pace. It doesn't mean they're bad books, it just means they're dense. So like the book I'm reading this week, it's called Hiding an Empire. It's about like the greater.
Ooh.
It's called great. It's about the greater United States. Essentially, like how like we've always been like an imperialist sort of power, and we've had these territories that we really didn't talk about, and they've kind of been like played down in terms of the history process of like how actually important they were to us. And it's really great, but it's 550 pages plus annotations. So when I'm trying to get through it, like I started reading it, I thought it would be super good. I was like, I'm gonna read every day on this one, because some weeks like I don't read like at all during a day, and that makes me really sad. And then some days I just like read the entire damn book. And so this one, it's so dense. I'll read 3 chapters and I'm like, I am exhausted. Like I can't do this anymore. And so you got to keep changing it up, otherwise you'll get really tired. So normally like my day is like when I don't have work, is like I'll read a chapter and I'll come home, then I'll like go watch a video, or like I'll play The Witcher for like an hour, and then I'll come back and like do another one. And but some books are super easy, like Democracy at Worth. That like just like butter, just like completely flows.
Like butter.
Well, yeah, those books are the best. Like I mean, like the longer books can definitely like hit on more like heavy stuff. But the shorter books, I'm like, this is great, because it means like I just finish it, like I get the script done, and then for the script writing process, when I'm not like crunched for time, I normally try. I recently have like a friend of mine who reviews my scripts. So like I'll review this, I'll write the script and then like send them to her, and then she'll get them back to me, and then I'll do like the recording process, and like during the recording, like things might like sound funny, or I might take a sentence out, or like change how something's said, and then like get it all like packaged and put it on a USB, and then take it to my friend's room, and he fixes it, and then I take it back for uploading. And so that's kind of the whole process. And yeah, like it does like over like full in terms of effort, I guess like hours spent, right, a week. It's probably about 10 hours in terms of between reading the book, writing the script, and then recording. So
Damn. Wow. I mean, okay. I think I have like a little bit of a theory about you, Hanz.
what is it?
I have like a little bit of theory about how you approach reading and how you approach books, because I just kind of figured it out during this stream. Because you said you before COVID you used to go to the gym 5 times a week what was it, 5 times a week, 3 hours a day?
Yeah, something like that.
So you're like a gym bro.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you approach your reading the same way that people approach, I don't know, like getting abs or whatever, where you're just doing like, you're looking at this word runner thing like it's like a gym machine. You're like, yeah, I'm going to turn it up a little bit today. I'm
Every
going to
time.
put a little bit more weight on it this time. I'm going to put it up. And then you're getting like brain gains or whatever you call it. I don't know. You're getting like reading muscles,
Oh yeah.
and then you're like doing it like you're doing reps. Like you're reading the book for like 8 minutes. You're like, okay, 5 minute break and back. Okay, here we go. Let's crank it up a little bit. See how we go.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like I'm both like very competitive, and I have a bit of an addictive personality, and so that can be like a really good thing when I'm trying to like get a lot of stuff done. And so in this case, like whether it's like reading or working out, that really helps me be able to focus. And I like constantly improving myself. Like I don't like doing things that I'm not good at. Like, and if I can't, and it doesn't mean like
hell yeah, man.
That's
an awesome attitude.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I have to be good immediately. I mean, sometimes it does, but normally it's like if I have to, I want to be able to feel like I'm getting better at things. Like regardless of what it is, whether it's reading or whether it's working out, and if I'm not progressing, I feel like I'm stagnating, and it makes me very like active in like stuff I want to do, and it definitely helps keep me on track. I feel like I've never really had an issue with like motivation. I'm always just like, all right, what am I doing? It's time to do it. Like get it done, and like all that sort of stuff. And then I'm excited. Like I like that lifestyle of like doing things. Like I'm probably gonna stream games at some point. Like I'm actually like, relatively high like tier player like in a couple of games, and it's just
same thing. You're like, I don't want to do it if I'm not good at it.
Yeah, like oh gosh. I bought Fall Guys as a present to my brothers, and we were playing Fall Guys, and I'm absolute shit at games that require like good movement and stuff. I'm used to like card games and like strategy games and stuff, and
right.
Yeah, and I was so bad, and I played it for 2 days. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I'm not getting better at this. Like, it's sad. Like, I feel terrible at it. Like, and then I just couldn't do it. But Radical Viewer says, do you retain what you read? I started summarizing each chapter and making reviews because I would forget what I read shortly after finishing the book. For me, it's like I'm really good at like short-term retention. So like I can finish a book and like for the next couple days, it's like all over my brain. But after that, like say like 2 weeks, if you ask me say like a week from now, like to list all the books that I've read, I couldn't give you all of them, right? But I retain like snippets of like the most important bits and bobs of all of them. But if I wanted to say really like have a serious conversation about those books, I'd probably just have like jog my memory, right? So like I would just read, I'd probably watch the video that I made on it, and then I suddenly like everything would flood back. And that's normally that's how I got through school. It's how I do lots of things, like just get it in my head, and then has to have a couple primers that like bring it back out. That's my process for that. I have a pretty good memory in terms of like a lot of things, like just pulling stuff out of my ass in terms of remembering stuff. So it's never been a huge problem. It's like I've seen a lot of like conversations and people like like they have like a bunch of studies and stuff. And for me, it's just like I'm kind of just like winging it with what I remember, and it hasn't really fucked me up so bad. So see.
Nice, that's awesome, man. I wish I was like that. I gotta read like the same page like 6 times before it sinks in. It's brutal. I have another question for you. What's the okay? Well, maybe you've already answered this one, but what's like the best book you've read in the past year, let's say?
Oh gosh, one of the best. I made a review on it. It's called The Goliath, and it's called The 100-Year War Between Monopoly and Democracy. Really good. It lays out like in a super awesome detail about how certain financial powers and like people like the old robber barons and stuff like would control the American economy, especially like after the First World War and like going into the Great Depression, and how they were good people, like flawed people like in government who made serious changes to make the economy a fair, just place. I mean, like obviously like for white people because that was like the time,
right? Yeah.
But like looking for inspiration. Don't lie, 50 Shades of Grey. Oh my god. But looking forward, like now it's like it gives me a lot of inspiration and also a lot of hope for the future. Like I'm very much anti-doomer. I don't like that like philosophy whatsoever. It's like, oh, things are so bad, like we need to like burn everything down. Like I mean, if a revolution happens and like it's cool and like everything's good, like that's fine. But I think a lot of people don't quite appreciate just how good, effective like government can be right now, even like as it exists, right? Because you had like the best story like of that book I would say is like there's a guy named like Andrew Mellon, and he was probably the last and probably the most powerful robber baron like comparatively. He was like a CEO of like literally hundreds of companies. He had controlling stock in hundreds of companies, and he was Treasury Secretary for about 12 years. So this guy completely ran the American economy through the entirety of the 1920s. And he changed laws and like filled the Justice Department with all sorts of cronies. It was bad. Like this guy was really bad. He had ties to fascism. Like shit was really bad. And
I don't like that guy.
no, I don't like him either. And then you just had between Roosevelt. It wasn't even like really Roosevelt like himself, but like just people that were staffed inside the Roosevelt administration. Like there were certain lawyers and like this congressman named Ry Patman, and they bodied this asshole. Like they literally like he got out of power. And then with Roosevelt, because he wasn't Roosevelt's Treasury Secretary. Like he left when the Roosevelt administration came in, and they took this guy to task. Like they took him to court all the time. There was this like massive years-long legal battle, and they never like put him in prison, but like they destroyed his reputation, and they like took away like his financial power and like so many different things. And it was absolutely astonishing and like really uplifting in terms of like what we did. And then you saw like this slow grind backwards of like falling back into like corporatocracy, like in the modern day again. And you know, we just need good people like that. And I think there are some people like that inside the government right now, like whether it's AOC or specifically on business stuff, like Katie Porter. She's excellent on these sort of issues. It's like we just have a couple of like, you know, politicians that know what they're talking about and care about governing. I think certain problems can be solved. Obviously, like there are certain constraints that like the United States like system will always have that you can't do without like massive like reform. But even with what we have right now, there's so much of like stuff we can do. And I really think that's something that makes me more comfortable with saying that like I'm like more of like a comfortable social democrat, or like if you're being like in terms of like takes, like I guess you could call me a democratic socialist in that like I'm not like opposed to the idea, just not something that I'm like currently pushing for. You know what I mean? Like I'm a democratic socialist in the same way that like Bernie Sanders is a democrat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that means you're not a democratic socialist kind of then, right? Like
Right.
more of a social democrat?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like the best thing to do, no matter what your like leftist beliefs are, is to work within the system until there's a revolution, right?
I mean, I would agree with that. I think socialism done left like just left, but his whole thing is you can actually reform your way through like democracy through something approximating socialism. Like it's entirely possible. Like you can do that through electoralism, and there's like certain successes of like, you know, labor parties or movements. Like it's much more like in South America, right? Because they're not under constant propaganda from like certain media structures about like how socialism is terrible. Like, you know, like in Bolivia and stuff, like with Evo Morales, like you had like, you know, bona fide like democratic socialists, like, you know, doing a lot of good, cool stuff. Again, none of them are perfect, obviously, but
Yeah, for sure. But they've lifted, you know, millions of people out of poverty in all the
yeah,
wave countries. So yeah,
it's like, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can do like with that specifically. And like, you know, I don't, I don't see, you know, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds, right? Like in terms of like my audience of like people like, you know, who like talk about politics on the internet all the time. It's like I feel like a lot of things we can do is like, you know, one, just raising awareness, but also just, you know, making sure that people, you know, we put good people in charge, or like good people like, you know, to do things. It really does help. Like, you know, like obviously like nothing's like going to be perfect, and like there's always going to be failures of our politicians, but like it's the difference between getting like, Biden's a bad example, right? But like even like having Biden in like compared to Trump, like Biden isn't good. Like he's a neoliberal shill. Like we all know that he's not going to do a lot of stuff. But you have people like Chuck Schumer who like, again, there's another like neoliberal shill. He feels so threatened by a potential primary challenge that he's supporting like I think he supports like abolishing like the first like $50,000 of student debt. And it's like, it's amazing. Like you have someone who's like, you know, he doesn't have a progressive bone in his body, and he's doing some pretty like, you know, relatively like good, I wouldn't say radical, but like relatively like really good stuff. And it's entirely because they're scared shitless, right? Like that definitely feels like something that's worth doing. And I like, when I think about like what I want to do, I want to like, you know, be someone like that, or like put people in charge like someone like that, right? Who can do those things. I think that's really important. And it's something that I feel like a lot of like lefties forget, is that, guys, like if the revolution happens, that's awesome. But like until that happens, we should probably try and make like, you know, the material conditions of everyone better. And the best way we do that is electing like, you know, whether you call them social democrats or democratic socialists, or like, you know, or just libs over like, you know, outright fascists. Like it's better. You know what I mean?
yeah, for real. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be cool to like try something different. I don't like capitalism. I'd like to get rid of capitalism, but from where I'm standing, from what I'm able to affect in the world, I'm still going to keep voting. I'm not going to be like, somebody who doesn't advocate going to vote. Is that what you were worried about saying that would be so controversial to your audience? Just
No,
like that voting is good?
I mean, there's a lot of spicy takes about like whether or not like harm reduction is good and stuff like that, and, like whether voting is harm reduction, right? Because like you see I saw it floating like around like in terms of like meme stuff, right? There was a lot of memes.
Oh yeah.
Like about how like the drone campaigns and stuff, right? Like about like, oh, like maybe the next one will be sent by a woman and like stuff like that. Like, oh, like like this is like
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Great cartoon.
like McFeminism, McLiberalism, and it's like, oh, like or like having trans people be able to like effectively be in the military again. And again, the military, not like it's the arm of like a relatively like neutral, if not like worse than neutral, like actor on the world stage, right? But if we live in a certain system, allowing people to participate inside the system kind of seems important, right? It's like when I go back to the 1960s and say, hey, like black people, we can't give you rights. We're trying to abolish capitalism first. You know what I mean? Like it feels strange. Like why can't you advocate for like better things inside the system while trying to either reform or like tear that system down? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I have seen a lot of this discourse on like Twitter and stuff, and people getting mad at ContraPoints or whoever does their like go vote Biden harm reduction videos. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it should be that big of a deal to me. I don't know. I mean, I didn't vote for Biden, but that's because I live in Canada, so I couldn't vote for Biden. But I would never like really judge anybody if they were like, no, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to like vote for Biden because of he's a neoliberal and I don't want to blah 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 do this. People vote for third parties, people do whatever, and then some people just like we're gonna vote for Biden the whole time, but they use this opportunity to push Biden left by pretending they weren't gonna vote for him. Like, oh no, Biden, you won't get my vote unless you legalize marijuana. Oh, certainly not. I'll vote for Trump. I'll do it, Biden. And then you get into the voting booth and you're just like, okay, whatever, Biden. He's not a proto-fascist.
Yeah, and again, like you don't have to like neoliberals. Like I don't, and it's very disappointing to watch them like bloviate around and do like terrible things that. And just like responding to like a couple questions that like are kind of relevant. Like radical viewers is like who doesn't have time for political advocacy? Folks living hand to mouth. Help those people, and they'll have like the time and energy to engage in politics, right? So. But the problem with that is that
yes, that's a great point. It's a great point. People like online left who's just like everybody's like a complete 100% like communist or whatever, but the real proletariat, like the working class, doesn't have the time to read all this theory and know all this stuff, and people are like not necessarily thinking about the best interests of those people.
No, and absolutely, right? So if we're trying to get to the point where they can like be more active in politics, right? We can't just like barring some kind of like massive collective uprising of like consciousness, which I don't think is really going to happen in the United States like anytime soon. The best way we can accomplish that is getting social democrats in power who provide better material conditions for working people, and those working people now have more time to like become socialists. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And I think like if we're talking about like a truly like global leftist like movement, then it really sort of has to start with the U.S. in a lot of ways, like because they're the ones that are mostly going around through CIA and cooing other countries and like smashing down like socialism whack-a-mole across the entire country. So
no, absolutely.
The U.S. can eventually elect like a social democrat like Bernie or somebody else who's sympathetic to those goals.
Yeah, like that's like another the thing we talked about, right? Like so many like socialist movements have been taken out like in CIA coups, right? And like the best way to fix that, right, is it seems just make sure that the CIA doesn't coup them, right? And I don't like the best way to do that seems like make sure the people in charge of the CIA are let these sympathetic people. So
yeah, let's have a reverse McCarthy era.
Yeah, like that sounds awesome, right? Like we support like international movements that are like raising the standard of living for their people. Like, that sounds great. Like so
yeah, for real.
So I really appreciate you calling in. I think we have a couple other people that want to.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I'll just plug my channel before I go.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Any shows you want. Sorry, go ahead.
Wicked. Yeah, check out my YouTube channel, Chill Goblin, and I just started a Twitch myself over at The Goat and the Goblin with We're in Hell, who was on the stream earlier. Anyway, Hans, happy birthday or whatever the stream's about. Or, oh yeah, 1,000 subs. Congrats, man.
Thanks.
Good shit. And yeah, talk to you later. Bye.
Everyone, make sure you go check out his stuff. Like his 2 videos on neoliberalism is absolutely awesome. And yeah, definitely check out his stuff. And then, all right, we have. Actually, I'm going to go get more water because I'm almost out and I'm kind of choking on myself right now. I'm gonna fill up my water, and then we're gonna bring on the brew dude who's currently waiting in the waiting room. So we'll bring you on, and anyone else, if you want to come in, make sure you enter get in the Discord, and get in the waiting room, and then I will pull you in bit by bit. So, all right. 1 second. I'll be right back, everybody. Behave. Share stream. All right. All right, Babbitt the Lamb, you said thoughts on Spangler. I don't know who Spangler is, so if you could tell me who he is, so I could give you an opinion, that'd be awesome. And then Vaporwave Doug, you had hockey. That's awesome. How did hockey go? I hope you had fun. And then so that's. While you tell me who Spangler is, I will bring in the Brood Dude and we'll have a conversation. All right, Brood Dude, you're talking to me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me mute your stream so that doesn't get really trippy. Okay. Yo, hey, hi, hello.
Hello. How you?
What's up?
Oh, sorry. Just saying hello. So, you have a you have a question for me? Is something you want to talk about or debate? What are you thinking?
Yeah. I got a couple questions. Let me run through the quick interview process. I came in with just one question, expected this to be short, but hearing you talk, I had some more. You're an interesting dude.
Cool. I do
so starting with something.
Stuff. Sorry. Like I like doing more. Like having a long form discussion thing is kind of nice. So if you have more than one question, like that's fine. Like as long as we're not waiting on like a line of 20 people, like take as long as you need.
Ah, cool. So firstly, where do you play Magic? I heard you played Magic. Are you? It sounded like you were a paper guy.
I played paper up until about I think it was like 2015, and then I went on a hiatus. Like I missed Kaladesh and Amonkhet, and then I came in about I think 2018, right when Arena started again. So like back in like Ixalan and like Ravnica, and now I follow people like who play it. I don't play it currently. Just I might play it for streaming stuff, but Fridays when you want to debate. Yes, Vaporwave Doge. I will debate him on Friday if you want. Thoughts on Piketty. So for that, yeah, I like all sorts of stuff. In my heart, sometimes I'm a big mid range guy. I just like slapping down, like
Chunguses.
Yeah, Chunguses, like accelerated threats, like Gruul Smash. That's my shit. Like just
God.
Like doing. I mean, like the biggest thing for me, right, is my attention span is so short that or it's not attention span. It's like I think I said this earlier, that I watch videos on such a quick speed that when I play it myself, it drives me literally insane. So when I'm trying to do like these things, I used to play Control a lot, but now I can't because I'm like, this is terrible. Like I'm just waiting for people to do things, and it just never happens. And then so like mid range and like sometimes aggro, but like that's just. Like you're playing aggro, why are you even playing the game? Like you're just
don't even get me started, dude. It's like how many decisions do you make in a game? Like why not just you could spend time grinding ladder, or you could spend time designing a bot to do it for you at that point. I mean, it's a pretty simple tree.
Yeah. What do you play? What's your
I am a big fun police guy. I really like discard decks. I really like
You're one of those.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
like-
I am the person that ruins this community 100%. I know it. I know I have a problem. I climbed to Diamond couples 2 seasons ago on Jank.
Nice.
I was playing a Tron historic deck, a historic Tron deck, which was like completely colorless. Just slapping for fun artifacts down. So I was playing, I don't know if you know Karn, the Karn that was released in War of the Spark.
Yeah.
Where you can wish in artifacts from outside the field. So it's kind of a toolbox deck where I just pull whatever I need from outside of the game and slap it down. And that's, to me, the most fun that you can have. That, or like mono black discard, empty the enemy's hand and make them concede.
That is pretty fun.
Yeah. Like, don't even have. I was at my, when I was probably playing the most, definitely not when I was the best at the game, but when I was playing the most, I was playing Nexus of Fate historic.
I played some of that. That's disgusting. Like Infinite. Oh man, like you go.
I'm in love with that card, man.
Just
the theme of the card, the flavor, the making people concede without a win condition in your deck, everything about it, man.
Everything about you disgusts me. Like I'm sure.
This is your community. They're looking you in the eyes right now. We're out there.
It's like, okay, if you play anything that is slower than mid range or faster than mid range, you hate fun and you hate other people. Like,
what a mid-range player!
Gang.
You want your board to look like kaiju battles. You want like 7/7. Oh, well, eat my 10/10. Okay, well now my 7/7 has flying.
Yeah, like
you're that kind of player. You want to play the game the way it was meant to be played 30-something years ago when it got released.
I'm a simple man. Okay, like it's like, you know, I like playing people and hitting people. Like it's not. Like I don't know. I'm not here to play StarCraft. Like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, but I am. But I am here to play StarCraft.
Okay, yeah. It's like all the fun decks and stuff. It's just, you know, I haven't got into it. I'm trying to think of like an actual game to play like while I'm on stream, and you know, we'll see. Like I play like the games I play right now. It's like I play TFT a lot, like Teamfight Tactics on League. I'm like high platinum in that, and then I'm playing The Witcher right now, and I have a couple card games. Like I play Slay the Spire and Monster Train. Like those are really fun. I used to play Legends of Runeterra too, but like sometimes it just takes so long. Like even like I can't.
Legends of Runeterra. The crack addicts card game is too slow for you. You're crazy.
It's not. It's I live faster than other people.
Yeah, 650 words per minute.
I've had to break my brain to process this. Okay, like it's not. It's different. I've reprogrammed myself, and now I can't. It's like it's like the Flash, right? Like there've been a couple really fun stories in comics where like Flash or Quicksilver.
Lives in super slow speed, and then like the most patient people on the planet.
Like. Yeah, like it just they have to be, because if your perception of time is so accelerated, everything feels slow. That feels terrible, and like that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'll definitely I love talking to people, but there's definitely like I listen to some videos. I can't listen to videos on like 1x speed. Like I love videos. Like I'd watch like a philosophy tube or like a ContraPoints video, and I'm like, this is so cool. But then I was like ×2, because otherwise like my brain like. I have to start getting better at that. Like I start doing like reaction videos and stuff, like to be able to watch things like at a certain pace, because I watch things so like quickly. I have like a really fun plugin that like lets you like, I think it lets you go up to like ×10. Like I was at ×3 for a while, but like I'm really like feeling comfortable like hitting my stride watching gaming videos at like 3.4 speed. Like it feels so good. Like it takes so little time, right? That's like an hour of information in a day. Like if I'm trying to like you know, because like. What I want to do, like, you know, is partially like talk about news and politics and stuff. And I feel like it's I'm doing like a disservice to like my audience if I'm not properly informed, and being informed takes time. And so if I can reduce the amount of time it takes for me to like learn about stuff.
Possibly the greatest crutch of society today is how long it takes to get informed.
Yeah, actually, like it takes so long. Like like most people don't read like headlines, like just don't read past headlines and stuff. And it's like it's really sad. Like I saw a really like fun Destiny video where he's just like he essentially just said like, hey guys, even if you just read like Fox News, like just Fox, and you just read past the headline and read all the stories, you're probably more informed than like 95% of people. And it's like you're not wrong. Like as long as you know like the bias is inherent like in any given like thing. I mean like some stuff is so much of like a rag of a news agency that like you can't trust anything they say. Like anyone who gets their news from like Breitbart or like One American News Network, like there's not a lot helping you at this point. Like I mean aside from just like dunking on you. You make an adequate basketball hoop. Like,
I was about to say you can always serve as a warning to others.
Like this is
always
how not to do it. Yeah. So do you play a lot of Magic right now?
I'm playing less. I've deteriorated down to like silver or something like that, and I'm just doing quests and stuff like that. I'm really sore about the meta right now. It's just
Bob Butthurt. Oh no.
Ah, boo-hoo me. I don't like playing against ramp. I mean, I don't know. That's the Magic player experience. You're like, oh, I forgot to play Magic for 2 years. Let me go check it out and see what's new.
Omnath, Lotus Cobra, Rogues. Like
gross.
It never gets better. Like
that's the word thing's a good segue. It's funny that you try to bring it back to Magic. I was just about to jump. Did you, before deciding to become a content creator, what were you reading at, like, we'll say, in high school? You said in your most recent video, I was astonished to learn that someone as bright as you and somebody that I look up to as I want a commentator, we'll say, is a year younger than me.
Oh, yeah, I'm
20, and we'll call it high schoolish. What were you reading at? Did you intentionally start reading extremely fast, or when you realized you needed to make content, or what?
Yes and no. So what actually happened? So I read it when I was a kid. Like I couldn't like put books down. I couldn't like find them fast enough, and I was reading like essentially all fiction. And I was just like just tearing through stuff. Like I'm really nostalgic about like like the Redwall books, like about like all like the little animals who, like lived in a medieval like time setting, and like you have like mice and badgers and like cats, and it's really great. And I would like have that. Like I was a big fan of fantasy stuff. My go-to genre was fantasy, and so like I would read a ton of that. And then I hit high school. And I stopped reading so much. I started doing more online stuff. Like my political like evolution. I started like my first like political commentator that I ever really like listened to was Kyle Klinsky on Secular Talk. He was like my gateway into like leftism. I started like seeing that sort of stuff like when I was about 16, 17. And I wasn't reading a lot then. And then I went to college and I couldn't read because I was so busy, right? Like I had classes. I was a pretty busy like guy because I had a major and then I had some other extracurricular stuff that I was really involved in. And so I would constantly be doing stuff. And like between that, like in the gym and things, like I just didn't have time to read, right? Like outside of school. Like my major, I was a public policy major. And so my reading for school was about 500 pages a week, right? So I was kind of like just trying to get everything done. And so I didn't have time to read. And then I graduated actually from college this like spring. And so I had a ton of vaporwave doge. You're like, 8 is too young to become involved in politics. Bro, I'm sorry this happened to you so early. Yeah, chill out. But for this specifically, after I graduated, I was like, I want to keep learning because I started working after I graduated, right? And so I want to continue my education at some point. Like I want to get a PhD in in poli-sci or economics, one of the two, political economy or some shit like that, right? And I want to do that, and so I was like, okay, so I want to make sure that like while I'm working and stuff, I don't, just do nothing, right? So I was like, so the reading started as a way for me to keep learning and not go crazy because like coronavirus started happening, right? Because like COVID like hit like during my like spring semester, so like I was like doing online school and stuff. And so after that, I was like, okay, so I gotta do something, and I started reading, and then I got a couple books. I read 3 books over spring break, and it felt so good. I was like, I forgot how much fun it could be and I was like, holy shit, like I want to, like, because I essentially like rediscovered it, right? Because like I didn't read a book for fun for about like 2 years, right? Like I was.
What did you read?
I was for the spring. It was Logic for the Left by Ben Burgess. What's it called? The Populist. Wait, let me grab my Kindle. I can tell you. I don't want to. I guess like Hanz remembers all the books he reads, but he can't remember this one. Just. Ugh. All right. So looking through this, I have my entire life is on this. There's like $200 worth of books in this shit. Let's look at my library. Yeah. So the things I read. Oh, I read Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Give them. Sorry, no, not that one. I gave Give Them an Argument by Ben Burkus. He's great. And then Populist Guide to 2020 by Crystal Ball and Sagar Jetty. I used to be like very much into Rising as a show, and then like kind of like once the protests started happening, and I saw like Sagar kind of go mask off with like some like crypto fascist stuff, I was like, I'm not sure I really like watching this anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
then so that one, and then Utopia for Realists by Walter Bregman. And those are just like really fun. Like while it was happening, I was like, oh, like this is a great critique. Like I volunteered a lot for like the Bernie campaign. Like this like over like the last year, right?
Sure. And
so I was like, okay, I was very politically active. I was like, oh, this is great. Like I loved learning about this stuff, and I was like, this is really cool. I want to do something about this. And I've always like thought about being like a content creator for about over like the last year or so. I actually tried streaming TFT once on my laptop. Like I actually made my Twitch like over a year ago, and it was just like me trying to get it done. I was like, and my laptop just died, right? Like it was terrible. I was like, shit, I'm a poor college student. I can't afford better hardware, so like I couldn't physically stream, right? And so part of my stuff, why I started doing like scripted content actually was because of that specifically. I was like, oh, I need to find something I can do because I wanted to I wanted to like be part of the discourse. I wanted to like to be able to talk to people and like say like things that I thought were important or stuff like that. So being able to say that's really like important for me. So I was like, okay, so I like reading, and I feel like there's enough like long-term political streamers, and I was like, I didn't feel like I could break in that way. And I didn't feel like it was unique. I wanted to do something that was like specific to me. Because now that I have my footing more like in like the realm, I want to like expand my content and do like different sorts of stuff. And I will do that. Like I'm still always gonna like have my weekly book review, but like I'm people in chat get hype. I'm like hopefully going to stream like 3 or 4 times a week, and like that sort of, and do that like sort of like thing as a hobby as well. And that's kind of where I started, and I started just making content. First review was like pretty shitty. Like I had a terrible my shitty like laptop camera and stuff, and like I saved a little bit of money, and I bought like a slightly better camera. Like I have a much better one right now. And so it's like, I cobbled together my setup piece by piece, and I just, like as my quality improved, like, my videos got better. And I feel like, I told like my friends and family to start. I'm like, hey guys, like I'm trying this thing. Like maybe if you could like, give me a sub or like watch one of my things, that would be awesome. And then like, I posted all my shit to Reddit and stuff, and sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. And
it's funny. I actually found you through the Imager post you made. I don't know if you made multiple,
and I do that all the time. Like it's actually pretty sad. Like when I like on Imager, like not
at all. I mean, you're trying to get your foot in the door in a massive market of established personalities already. I don't think there's anything
hard, right?
at all.
Like, everyone, you gotta grind somehow, right? So like I feel like I said, I like being good at things, right? I like knowing that whatever I'm doing, I'm giving it like 100%. I very much it's like. I was hyper competitive. Like before, like I was an amateur, like weightlifter or like powerlifter. Like I say weightlifter because like I feel like more people now will understand like what. Like,
sure. Yeah. Not know the difference between
and like all those sorts of things. Like I love being good at stuff, and I very much want to be the best person I can be, like in every field. I want to be like the strongest, smartest person I can be. I want to like achieve like self-actualization and become like the best human being that Hanz can be, and. Yeah, that's really important to me. And so when I like seeing this, like, I like, making my content better and like doing all sorts of stuff and, just like, plugging and trying to talk to other creators. Cause like, not just cause like I want to like get my name out of that, but I want to have these conversations. For a lot of times, like, I feel like I want to talk to people, and I feel like a lot of times you can't. Like in discourse on the internet, it's kind of shoddy. But I was like, if I can just like establish myself as like a reputable like person, I can have those really cool conversations with other people, and not just like be like chat like like shit posting with people. And not that I don't like shit posting, like I do it all the time, but it's like I like having conversations, which is why like I'm really enjoying like doing the stream right now. Is like I felt somewhat constrained by like the time constraints of my book review video, but being able to talk to people like long form, it feels very good, and like having like this back and forth also feels really. So I'm actually very much looking forward to doing this sort of stuff like moving forward, because I find it very fun. Like it feels like I'm able to have like some really cool conversations that makes me happy.
So, speaking of your content and what you want to start doing, you've talked a little bit tonight about evolving more long form content and expanding into other things like gaming and that sort of thing. I noticed on your channel there was I don't know the exact video off the top of my head, but there was a moment where you use. I mean, you've had experimentation all over your videos. You've moved filming locations. You've started implementing more memes into your videos and things like that. Do you have, I guess, an artistic vision, like what you want the videos to be in terms of formatting and things like that? Or do you just want to find what works so you can do what you love, which is the communication with your community?
Both, and that like the videos are like a form of like expression, like, and like I wouldn't call them art, right? But like they're a form of expression for me. And so I experiment with different stuff, like whether it's like me sitting like on a couch versus me sitting on a stool versus me with my stuffed animals. Also, everyone in chat, like you've asked me like to bring them back. They're there. They are here to stay. I'm bringing them back for all my stuff. The octopus's name is Cthulhu, and the bear's name is Papa. And so they are here to stay. And so when I make the videos, like I want to do like, it well, right? So part of why I did some of the skits really is that I felt like some of the concepts are better explained in like those sorts of things, right? Because when I'm saying like I'm explaining manufacturing, and I'm trying to like say like, hey guys, like certain types of reporters do better than others. Being able to say, hey, like I like like. Us being able to say like this is like example of like like a comic example of like a good reporter versus a bad one in terms of like speaking truth to power, and that's really important. So being able to do that kind of matters. And so when like going forward, if I can make a skit for something, I'll do it, and if I don't feel like I need it, then I won't do it. But the skits aren't exactly going to be like a mainstay of my videos by any stretch. Like there might be multiple in a video, there might be none in a video. And if you like them, then like if you don't like them, it's just like it really is a case by case basis. So on those, and then engaging with my community, I very much like my community. I feel like I really enjoy doing that like specific thing. And so going forward, I want to be able to do that more often. So that's what I hope for the streams are going to be. I have a couple like segments planned, like some might just be like me talking to people while I'm playing games or something. I very much am looking forward. I want to like do some news commentary and stuff like I was trying. I was failing earlier today about like that sort of stuff. So like I'm gonna do there's like a segment like I was calling it like I was gonna call it, like headlines with Hanz. I was like gonna go through like 4 to 5 news stories a day and like talk about like what's happening in the world and like try and like give a relatively nuanced opinion on like what's going on. Like when I talk about like the foreign policy stuff, like I'm pretty anti-interventionist, but you have to be able to say like that there is the argument as to like why like force projection for certain states is a thing, right? Like if you say that like we just pull out of everywhere, suddenly like the world's like an open oyster for like China. And I'm not saying like China's the boogeyman, like the exist all boogeyman, but like they're
one imperial power, but just moving in to fill the void. Of course.
Yeah, they're another imperial power. So it's like if I have to pick an imperial power, I would prefer the one that I currently have democratic access to, right?
Of course.
So it's like I would prefer like being a part of those like decisions. And so like in terms of like communicating with my community, I actually very much like the most fun thing actually about getting 1,000 subs is I can make community posts now. And so like I can like have polls like, hey, what do you want to see about me doing? Like when do you want me to do it? And I really like those, being able to engage with people. And I feel like that's part of like why I started the Discord as well, is because I like being able to have conversations with people, and I felt like having like my own space to do that would be pretty helpful.
Interesting. Do you think you're gonna do anything other than like video streaming, like anything without your face on it? Do you think you want to do any sort of blog writing or any writing focused material at all?
Um, Possibly. Like it's like I write scripts, but I definitely feel free to everyone feel free to correct me on this. I prefer talking to writing. So, um,
Mhm.
if there's audience and stuff, maybe. But I personally find conversations much more useful because this happened to me a lot. Like when I was in college, I would always do much more better in discussion based stuff than specifically writing based papers because I'm not the best writer. Like so a lot. So but I would normally be like relatively good at speaking. And so I would feel like most of the best conversations I had or the best things that I was able to do was when I was just talking to other people. The problem with with long form papers, specifically when someone's not responding to them, is that you say everything and then the other person has to go through all your stuff, go through all your stuff. But I prefer like hashing out bit by bit, like going through like different like portions, right? Because if you have a 15-page paper and then someone's like, all right, look, I'm going to try and read this, but I can't respond to all like holistically. I want to take it apart like bit by bit. Like how much can you really like respond to if you don't say accept the initial framing or something like that, or you have issues with that. So I just feel like it's a better conversational like element to do that. And if everyone is like itching for Hanz editorials, I'll try to like maybe, but like I don't like it just feels like a bit difficult. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, not really your personal style.
yeah, it's not my
Sure.
style. And I can
Sure.
yeah. So I don't even know where I'd put them. Like what become a media? I can now publish Medium articles. You know what I mean? Like I'm not sure like what I'm thinking. So
I would definitely recommend because this is something I would expect you to get a lot of. It's a question that I have. Do you have a master list of sort of Hans essential reading for politics or for economics or for fantasy? You said that you had read a lot back in the day. Do you think you'll do you have a master list in your mind, a sort of favorites list?
a master list. Um, Obviously like Capital in the 21st Century by James Piketty is pretty good. I'm actually just like I'm like googling something to make sure that I have it. Not like saying the wrong thing. Sorry, Capital in the 21st Century by Piketty. International Political Economy by James Nolt. He's actually a mentor of mine, and he's absolutely amazing. And so you should all check out his work. He also has it's like a weekly or monthly blog called Polarizing Political Economy, and he's absolutely brilliant. And that's a lot of where I get it's what kind of like where I got my first start thinking about like more complex political issues. Because I don't have like an actual academic background. I have a bachelor's in public policy, right? But I also like helped him specifically like doing some research about like, international trade and like international relations between like U.S. and China, U.S. like Korea stuff. So like those things are James Nolt stands in the chat. Yeah, dude's awesome. And then so he's brilliant, and I feel like that finding people that are very smart to read about or learn from is definitely helpful in building a political understanding. Like being and also being able to critique stuff. Part of why I'm a sucked in like a social democrat as opposed to like something harder. Even like I've read all the theory. I'm pretty sure I've read more theory than a lot of like actual communists and stuff like because it's kind of my job, right? So and it's not that I find it unconvincing. It's just that I feel like it's almost like I'm hedging my bets as like in terms of understanding. Like not that I don't have like strong positions on things, but I feel like there's enough nuance in the world to exist that I'm probably, not perfectly. I mean, like, obviously, I have all the right opinions. Because, like, why else would you be listening to me? Like, if I wasn't like completely 100% correct. But being in the position I am, I think it gives me more flexibility in my framework of understanding different, being able to understand things from, say, like a hard socialist perspective versus a liberal perspective, or all those different things. Like, provides me benefits. And from like basic political advocacy, I mean, I agree with socialists who just take the Ancom pill, you coward. Radical reviewer, I'm sorry, man. Like you're gonna have to get me with the guillotine. I can't. I think there's certain things that we gotta do first. Like if we if we get everyone, if we decommodify healthcare and housing and food and education, and then at that point, if that's not enough, then like we can have an argument. Like,
all right. So you're at least on the right track. You're willing to give the old guillotine the chance it deserves.
Oh my god, it'll break on my neck. Look how thick it is. It's like I'm like 80% neck. Just oh, but yeah, I have a. So this is really nice. I hope you stick around inside the community. I have the real B Lee like waiting, and he's been sitting there for about 25 minutes. So I don't want to.
Sure. Last quick question. Do you mind?
Of course, yeah, go for it.
If you're comfortable sharing, if you're not totally understand, but where in Florida are you? Because I happen to be in Tallahassee.
DM me and we'll
oh yeah, sure. I totally get it.
Trying to dox me on my first. Oh yeah, like see what
oh, they get to you early.
What CIA psyop are you a part of? I'm curious. Like just see, you got me monologuing.
I do.
So yeah. If you want to stick around, I'll talk to Real B Lee for a bit, and then if you're still around and you want to ask you some more questions, I can pull you back in. So.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my headset got disconnected. I heard you though. Yeah, absolutely. I'll go chill in the waiting room for a bit if you want to hit me up if you happen to have time after your conversation with Beely.
Cool.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna I'll let you go first. I'll let you go, and then Real Beely, I'm going to go get more water and get a drink, and I'll come back. So
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna go fill up my water again and come back with like a cup of alcohol. So right back. Behave. Cheers. Stop saying the chair stream. I'm back. I promise. Just give me a second. You guys are ridiculous. All right. Chair. All right. Gonna pull Real Beely in. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. I was just muted.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think it's delayed because, well, never mind. I won't say. Yeah, but
it's like a wait.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a few things to say. They're not really questions. They're just like things I've been thinking about recently. If you want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, sounds great. What should I call you? B Lee or?
Just call me Lee is fine.
All right. Cool.
And I'll call you Hanz and not slip up.
Yeah, it's like a yeah. And then
yeah, when you were talking to other people, I was just watching. Obviously, I wasn't on, but I was like, I can either like corroborate or deny what you're saying, but you didn't lie, so everything you said was true.
Thank you. Hello, Caleb Ricketts as well, and then Radical Reviewer. I'm just starting off with a seltzer. Like, depending how long this goes, I might get something else. My drinks of choice, I like rum and coke, and I'm a big fan of apple cider with Fireball, like cinnamon whiskey with cider. It's delicious. So those are like my favorite things.
Right. Oh, so the reason I can say that is because I know Hanz from college for 4 years.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because no one will know that.
Yeah, see, it's psyop. You'll never know this guy chatting with the boys. But yeah, it's like
yeah. So I can confirm that he tells the truth. He is very competitive. He goes to the gym literally that much. Also, he eats a ton of chicken.
Just leave the chickens alone.
And no vegetables. So all of that is true.
I think
All
there's
right,
a
let's
solid
see.
argument to be made that chickens are vegetables.
That would help you a lot. That would help your case.
I know, right? Like that's all I need.
Okay, so one of the first points that I've noticed is I don't really know how to like encapsulate it, but it's just kind of an argumentative tactic I've seen conservatives use, where
Okay.
they present an attack where the defense of that attack will render you on their side by its very nature. So, for example, this whole thing about like election security, like, oh, our elections aren't secure. I've seen a lot of like Democrats and media being like, this election is the most secure it's ever been, and that's true, and I support that. And this election obviously went to Joe Biden, but then the problem is, like, there's also like issues with election security, and we should be pro, like, you know, especially in Texas, there's a lot of problems with election machines and things like that, and election security is an issue that like the Democrats should support, but the way the framing of the question, like, you know, it pushes them to like put them in a weird spot. Another way they do that is when they attacked Joe Biden as a socialist, and then he's like, oh, I'm not socialist, I hate the Green New Deal. And so just by their attack, they render you like on the wrong side by your defense, if that makes sense.
Right. And so, Radical, we were just like commented about it, but that again, it's about framing, right? So it is not a divergent. So it's a very fine line to walk, right? In
Right.
saying that yes, this election is very secure, and that future like
Right.
security is important. But then the best way to do it is honestly, just, in this specific case, mock them. Be like, your claims are like literally so baseless that there's nothing that like it's not worth it. And like I can't even humor you in like the frame of actual election security because you're so
Right.
unconcerned with its like reality. And then in that
Right.
case, like you know, I would say from a like rhetorical perspective, you just can't give them an inch like in that specific regard. You can't say like, oh, like I totally see your point, because like they're not making an actual point. It's called a. Have you heard of like the Mott and Bailey?
I have not.
So it's a very similar rhetorical tactic, and the idea is you make an unbased claim, right? And then you make a second, sort of related, but much more defensible claim. And then whenever you're pushed on the indefensible one, you make arguments in defense of the defensible one, and it makes you seem unreasonable for how you're pushing back. It's like if someone says there are biological differences between men and women, and then their second thing is men are superior to women. If you say that's bullshit or like something, and they was like, oh, I'm just saying that they're different, bro. You know what I mean? Like that was a bad example, but
Right.
like, but that's the sort of like
No, I see what you're
yeah,
saying.
and that's the sort of framework that they go for. And so a lot of it is you just can't give them the the legitimacy they deserve. Like when you're having a conversation and they say something absolutely basic, you have to just be like, all right, well, I agree that election security is an issue, but you are so outside the old Jordan Peterson. We're so outside the realm of like respectability as an ideology that it doesn't even matter. Like you're sitting at the kids' table, and we can't bring you to the grown-ups' table until you stop spouting bullshit. And there's no way like to fix you. So the best thing we can do is just make fun of you until you like start dealing with reality again. So like that's something that it takes like some level of like aggression or charisma in the conversation, because like it's difficult to be like, hey guys, like yes, it's important, but you're also stupid because like you don't actually care about it, right? Like it takes like a certain kind of like antagonism that certain people might not be comfortable with, right?
Right.
And, especially when someone's like dead set on like the fraudulent election claims. And there's another thing about they do this too, where they just throw like tons of shit at you, right? Where it's like here's like 6,000 claims of like voter
gish galloping.
Yeah, gish galloping. They're like there's all the different claims, and because you're not crazy, you haven't gone through all the rabbit holes of understanding why they're doing what they're doing. And so you can't debunk them individually, and like that kind of makes you look weak because you're like, oh, like I can't respond to like this specific point, right? So,
right.
But it's kind of impossible, because like if someone has a million sources from Breitbart and Project Veritas about like different bullshit, and you're just like, all right, well,
or
like,
the president,
or the president, like you can't,
sadly,
you can't debunk all of it. So a lot of it's just like, all right, guys, like, do you have a respectable source I can believe? Like, is there anything? Is this more than conjecture? Like, poke holes in the things that are like broader and more understandable. But a lot of it's just like just laugh at them. It's like, sorry, like you're not real. Like there's nothing you're saying makes sense, and until you
Right.
like deal with the reality of like the world, we're not fixing this. So
Right.
that's kind of the thing there is fixing that. But
Yeah, sometimes my fear isn't as much on the conservative making the attack, but on the usually like neoliberal defending it, especially if it's something like about socialism. I'm afraid these types of attacks push the Democratic Party farther right. I think that's my biggest fear. You know, in defense of what they're attacking, we will move toward them if it makes sense.
Right.
Especially the socialism attack. This one, like, it's not as apparent because like they're not well, I don't know. Yeah, for the election security, I think I agree with you that it's a little more like easier to laugh it off for now. But in terms of like other types of conservative talking points, like even like attacking the global elite or something, like that's a conservative thing now. And in the defense of that, you know, it makes the Democrats look like they're like the party of the wealthy. You know, it's those types of attacks that worry me, especially the response that liberals give back. You know, because they're always like, "Oh, we're the opposite of whatever you're saying," and it's kind of a trap, I think.
Oh, it absolutely is, and like liberals are dumb because they kind of fall into that. Like they're
over and over again.
Well, it's like the part of the problem is they actually don't believe in the things they're being accused of, right? Like if you accused like Bernie, like I saw this meme like all the time, like during the debates where they would be like, "Hey guys, like what's it called? Like Joe Biden wants to give you health care," and then Biden's like, "No, I don't," and it's like, all right, well,
yes,
like,
I know exactly.
Like, and
that's one instance.
And that sounds, and it does sound bad, but if you have people, this is more like I'd say advice for lefties as opposed to libs. But even for libs, right? Like you can say, hey, if someone accuses you of trying to do good things, don't immediately backpedal, but like press it. Like if someone's like, hey, you want to like create like Green New Deal and like provide green energy to everybody, it's like, yeah, I do. Like,
yeah, challenge the assumptions behind what they're saying.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's just something that like lefties I'd say are better at than like liberals are, because a lot of
especially libs in power just cave so fast.
Yeah, unless they get better at that, there's really no saving them. You know what I mean? Because like it's like if we're waiting for Biden to defend socialized medicine, it's not going to happen. So the best thing we can do is like put something, whether they're a lib or not, in the position of defending that stuff, right? It's like for so there's. It's like the fracking argument. Oh yeah, it's like they'll ban fracking, and then Joe Biden's like, no.
Exactly, that too. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a lot of that's tactical, right? Because a lot of people in power don't really have a ton of principles. Like I don't, and like no, but like okay, let me make a spirited defense of having zero principles compared to fascism. Like it's like you would say that fascists have principles and they're terrible principles. Like you never want that. So if I have to take like like a wishy-washy, go with the flow, someone who just wants to be like an important human being and like be a senator or be the president, like like I assume like Biden. Like is then yeah, like they're awful, but like there are things that are worse than like being like a spineless like fuck. So like you got to think about how you're going to like deal with that, and there is an actual serious conversation to be had about the efficacy of pushing parts of the base away and trying to pull like parts of the base. The Republicans do this very well in that they throw constant red meat to their base. And they're just like over and over again. That's why that makes them electorally competitive, even though they have like 10 million less people. But the problem, Democrats have a much larger population. But the problem with that is they're a very diverse like group, and I don't just mean that like from like a racial like a religious standpoint. I mean like from a policy standpoint. You have like conservatives like Joe like Joe Manchin, like actual conservatives. And then you have like people like to the left of Bernie, right? And so,
well, not enough, but a little bit, some.
Right, and there's not, and if I'm like a Democrat, if I'm like leadership, right? I do want to pull in like parts of my base, and there's what's it called, and but also like their whole thing, right? Their entire strategy has been like expand the tent, problem with that is like they don't really throw any like red meat to their base in any substantial way, and that's why you have places where it's like Joe Biden lost, like in Florida, but the minimum wage won, right? And he supported that policy, so it's
Right.
like there's a sort of disconnect, and that's something that Democrats are just very weak on in terms of messaging, where they just refuse to say why they support things and why those things are good. I said, one second. A sad grad student says, but the liberals also pander to the centrists and more moderate conservatives instead of actually suggesting policy that their base wants. That's true, and that
Yep,
again,
that's part of the problem. I think I'm bringing up a little bit.
yeah, and again, like it's part of the electoral calculus. I would say that their electoral calculus is flawed. There's a lot of progressive
Yep,
policies.
I agree.
Yeah, and a lot of progressive policies are not just like good, but they're popular, right? Like I'm not like
Right.
it's like there are a couple issues
Like in
where-
Florida, the minimum wage had more votes than Trump or Biden.
and like that's really good. So like if we became the party of like $15 minimum wage, that'd be good. I think.
I'm just worried we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying?
We're absolutely not is the thing, right? But like we're
Right.
we're wish casting right now in terms of like what we want to happen.
Right.
I'd say like I think there's something.
Do you have any like predictions why that is? Why mainstream Democrats cape so often to Republican framing? In your opinion?
It's easier. It really is. Like if someone sets the table for you and all they're asking you to do is sit down at it, it's way easier than making your own meal, right? Because like if you have to create your own framing and push back, if you reject the framing, which I agree you have to do to really substantially win those arguments, you have
Right.
to provide your own separate framing. And that's one more difficult, but also you have to really believe in it, like in terms of like what you're saying. Like it's very difficult for someone who doesn't believe like in the principles of like good governance and like socialized medicine to to vigorously defend those things, right? And so
Right.
you're kind of asking people to do something that they're really like, I would say ideologically not capable of doing. And so in those cases, the best thing you could say, really, and this is something that liberals also are bad at, right? We're dunking on the libs, guys. You can clip this shit out.
Don't worry. The next question I'll dunk on a different direction. So
And what that is even inside Republican framing, Democrats win. Like it's like they talk about the economy. The economy,
Yep,
as
exactly.
they record it, did better under Obama than under Trump. And I'm not saying that was a good, like the way there's a ton of caveats to like why they measure the economy a certain way is like bullshit and like all sorts of stuff. Absolutely true. But even on their own framing, Democrats fail because they like even though they're right, like they're more right than Republicans, right? Like if we're on a gradient here, and
Yep.
they can't and they don't respond efficaciously, like, and it's very frustrating to watch because even like as a lib, you can still say like, oh, these are all the things I support, like inside your framework, and your framework is even dumber. Like, it's like it just doesn't. But and they don't even have to like build their own premise for that. Like, it really does speak to the weakness of libs, like because like in terms of like what they're doing, because they can't,
Yeah.
they can't fight it, and that's something that I think you have to consider, like moving forward. Is like one, you said this before, like in chat, you have to like primary libs.
primary, yeah.
Yeah, and then
I just wish I could find these mysterious Biden voters. I know they're mostly older folks, but if I could find them, I'd love to give a long chat about like why the heck Biden over Bernie. But yeah,
I
I
agree.
understand.
Well, it's in like polls for however much they're worth. Like the biggest reason in the Democratic primary was like someone they think could beat Trump, right? Like Sanders did better after 2016, after 8 years of Obama and Obama's like many failures, than he did after 4 years of Trump, right? And so
Right.
what that tells me from like an analytical perspective is that libs are so scared of Trump and like I would say so scared of like like the impending feeling of proto-fascism or whatever you want to call it. That's
Right.
they'll vote for like a ham sandwich that they think it has the best shot, right? So it seems like the
Right.
best way of pulling them over.
Yeah, if they're exactly, then just have they'd still vote for Bernie though.
No, I
in
know.
that scenario.
I agree. I agree. But the thing is, like, it's like they're not making a policy-related argument, right? They're making like a
Right.
They're like, we have to win.
Referendum.
Yeah,
Referendum.
yeah. And so we want. So I would say like we're actually in a pretty like solid place right now, and that like once Biden gets in, right, we can say for the next 4 years, give them credit if they do anything good, but like if they do anything bad, just like turn to our lib friends and say, hey, this really wasn't like enough of what we wanted, right? Hey, like we didn't go far enough on this, right? Like like keep like that's how you radicalize people like under like libs. Like you can't do it under conservatives when we're literally just fighting to maintain basic human rights, right? And that's
my biggest fear is that the current neo-libs in that camp of the Democratic Party will accept the Republican framework and blame Bernie somehow and AOC for the failure of the almost inevitable failure of the Biden administration.
I mean,
if he goes forward as like a compromise candidate where he'll have like half Republican like people in his cabinet, and then like probably not get anything done, etc., because of the Senate, things like that.
Right.
So that's like darkest timeline stuff.
That is darkest timeline stuff.
It's happened before, Obama and such.
But even in like that darkest timeline stuff, right? I would say that even like if we have like that perfect they have that perfect compromise candidate, right? Like guys, we have like Republicans and Democrats, and they're working together, and stuff still isn't getting fixed. I still think there's like the chance for like actual left like ideas or just like good good ideas in general to break through. Because clearly, like,
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Like, like I'm not a doomer, so like I feel like it's the only thing we can do is hope.
Right.
And so,
I mean, if you stop fighting, then you automatically lose.
Yeah. So like people who are like we all have that moment, right? Like everyone, I had this one moment when it was when Bernie lost Iowa. Right, and like there was that crazy amount of like fuckery.
Was that one of the early ones? Iowa was one of the first ones.
That was the first one, right? And
there's a lot of fuckery there.
Yeah, and there was all that fuckery with the Buttigieg campaign and like that weird app and stuff, and like it was super shady. And like I made like my angry Facebook post, and I was like, I'm burning your bust. I'm never voting for like libs ever again. Like you know what I mean? And like in that moment, sure, but then I deleted it. Like 3 days later when I thought, I'm like, okay, fuck, just calm down. Like like there's like if we give up, then we cede ground to either the libs or the
conservatives.
Yeah, the conservatives. So like we're gonna lose, right? So like you gotta if you want to win, you gotta play the game. And so it's not fun. It's not glamorous. Like most of us are like myself included. Like none of us like are gonna magically like fix the world's problems. It's just like all of us like collectively suffering and trying to make something good happen, right? And you just gotta keep doing it. You gotta wake up every day and do it. You gotta wake up every. It's like this. It's the way I look at like everything I do in my life. It's like I wake up and run, or like before COVID, I wake up and go to the gym, right? Like you just gotta wake up and do it. Like sometimes it sucks, and sometimes it's bad. But you just keep doing it, and then if you keep doing it, then eventually things like might get better. But if you don't do anything, things are obviously going to get worse. And so,
yep, for sure.
What's your next question? I feel like we've dunked on the libs enough. Biden's bad.
The next
like,
is that one's punching right. This is going to be punching down on a political compass. So obviously this is a little unfair because the two of us we're both Dem socks, right? Or sock Dems.
Yeah, sock
Dem. But in my question, I guess I'm going to ask you to defend the anarchists because you've read more than me at this point about anarchism.
Yeah.
But to me, anarcho-communism like can't exist in my mind because like the less government you have, the less of a tool or balancing force you have against the power of capital. So like ANCAP can sort of exist in my mind because like if you don't have a government regulating anything, then obviously like Jeff Bezos is going to be the most powerful person in the world and stuff like that. So what do ANCOMs think about that? You know what I'm saying? Like
so
how do they get to their anarchy? And why do they want to do that?
You just keep abolishing like certain things and taking them off the table. So it's kind of it's a little bit like beating a dead horse in the sense that we're abolishing different types of commodity forms, like relatively like commodity free society, right? Like take housing off the table and take education off the table, take food off the table, take housing off the table. You just keep like doing that until like everything's off the table. And eventually the idea, right, in a non-violent revolution, like at a standpoint like is that in that state, once we get there, right? And there's like and I can make a lot of arguments as to how you get there specifically. Once you get there, the idea is like the state is kind of gone in terms of like in terms of like oppressing people, right? Like in terms like monopolies on force and stuff. You still say it would have like you'd have like programs for like, you know what I mean, in terms of like say healthcare and housing and stuff.
So I'm trying to think it. So basically, like very under militarized or almost fully demilitarized, like army and police force. I'm guessing, but still social programs.
Yes,
like that's the transition phase.
Yeah, like if you had anarcho communism, they also said you're cutting in and out, so you might want to check your microphone jack.
My bad.
But
I'm pacing a little bit.
It's okay. And so so then what you would have is that if someone tries to like do some weird fuckery, right? Like like accumulate private power that would be detrimental to the rest of the society. In the most convincing argument I heard was something by Kropotkin, and he said like you ostracize the fuck out of people who don't like participate, right? People who don't play nice, right? And it's like, so if someone like steal something or like
canceling on Twitter or something.
Yeah, it's like canceling on Twitter, but like real life, it's like, hey, like we live in a society. I mean, it's like we all live in this society. We all like have all of our needs met. Like we're having a good time, and like we don't work very hard. We don't work very like long hours and stuff. Like things are really good. Why are you fucking this up? So we're just not going to talk to you. And then like your power accumulation doesn't work, right? That's essentially it. And the idea is, if like a person or a group of people like tried like taking power and stuff, the majority of people would stop them, right? And that's why that's why like it's more utopian than like other things.
Unless they were like really popular.
I mean, like yes,
like a bad actor populist.
Yeah. Bad
faith actor populist.
So entirely possible, right? But
right.
But essentially anarcho-communism necessitates like a stateless world, right? And I don't mean government doesn't exist. I mean that like you don't have like U.S. and China fighting each other, right? Like everything's just kind of
right.
So that
where you can have like treaties to slowly demilitarize the world.
Yes, and like that's the kind of like the goal. But if you don't have that, it doesn't work. And like there's a lot of literature about how like left-leaning movements or governments become more militarized and more authoritarian in response to the attempted toppling of them, right? Like maybe like the South American socialist governments wouldn't be so aggressive and authoritarian if they weren't constantly worried about a CIA coup every 5 minutes, right? And so like, there's a bunch of presuppositions that you have, and there's a bunch of presuppositions that you have to accomplish before you achieve that, right? Before you get to that end state. And so this is why, even though like I'm sympathetic to the idea of anarchism, I don't like there's a ton of stuff I want first, right? This is why like I consider myself like a suck dem as opposed to like as a democratic socialist, right? Is because like all the things I want in terms of like what I want to decommodify, all those things can really happen inside the current system. And then once we get all those things, then like I'm willing to have a conversation again about other stuff. It's just that I don't feel like it's super necessary to do that right now, right? Like it's like what's the point of it's like the meme, it's like I heard a lot, it's like what's the point of being the most like lefty person like being sent to the gulags, right? It's like, oh, like congrats, you were right, but we like failed and fascists took over the entire country, right? Like awesome,
right?
So
I have a corollary to that.
Go for it.
So what are like the most common first steps for like bread people?
Like
the ANCOMs. Like what are their first steps? Because you said there's like an order. So is it like are they also sock dem for now, or are like they pushing for things that like that sock dems wouldn't? That's what I'm asking.
It depends. Because it also depends like what like consider like a suck dem, right? Because like it's like I'm a suck dem, but like I am for like decommodifying healthcare and housing, right? Like so those are pretty like I guess you could say those are pretty like radical things. But
pretty far left, at least for America.
Yeah, but they like do those things also, right? So I've seen some anarchists like I participate in electoral politics and stuff, and like and the things they support are these things. So it's almost like it depends whether I'm speaking more to the reform aspect of ANCOMs as opposed to like revolutionary NCOMs right now because they
Right.
just want, like full like physical seizure and stuff and dissolving government stuff and like so I'm just like that's probably not like the way, but like if we're doing it right, like here's how I'd do it. Like if I was an anarchist, right? Like it's just so you just keep the decommodifying shit. You just keep doing that over and over and over again, and then do that with the rollover, right? Like you do it in pieces, right? Like you fight corporate power, you decommodify like different things. Hey, Ken, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Congrats on the 1K. Really. So doing those sorts of things, you just keep doing that over and over, and then the difference between say like I would say a SuckDem and a Democratic Socialist and a and then like an ANCOM is that the ANCOM just don't stop, right? They just keep decommodifying everything, right? I think most SuckDems aren't for the abolishment of the commodity form, right? So like
they're just for like free healthcare and stuff like that, and social safety net.
Yeah, so like for those things, and then you have Democratic Socialists who like are like for that plus full ownership of the means of production by the workers, and that can still exist inside a state like a state society, right? Like.
Didn't you have a book about something like that, like where worker co-ops own their own, like democratizing the workplace? I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Like Wolf, was it?
Yeah, that was Wolf. That's what I did with the Radical Reviewer. Yep, the Radical Reviewer says it the best. Just more and more decommodification over time, and just more democracy over time. And eventually, you have anarchy. You just keep breaking down those systems over and over until, like, essentially, there's no like systems left, and everything's just like fully democratized. Like, I think there's
like. Once you've done that, like Jeff Bezos wouldn't have power, is what you're saying.
Right, like you break down
because
the
thing he makes money on would be like decommodified.
Mm-hmm. And so, and like the process of
the government will still exist for like the majority of that process. It's like their end place is somewhere different than whereas DemSocs would be.
That's exactly it.
Awesome, nice, thank you.
No problem. I can see that. Anyone in chat have any questions or things you want to ask? And then, just like reading through a couple of these, I haven't seen all of them. A sad grad student, this is about earlier, but the liberals also pander to the centrist and moderate conservative and actually suggesting policy their base wants. And then like how Medicare for All is very popular, but liberal candidates won't back it. So the polling on Medicare for All is much more complicated than that. So yes, as a basic thing, when people say, hey, would you like to guarantee healthcare to everyone, they say yes. But when they ask, do you want to abolish all forms of private insurance, the number goes down, right? So it really depends how you ask the question. Like you can say that's like,
right, but certainly the Democratic leaders aren't doing it any favors by their framing.
Correct.
They aren't pushing for it, which would probably, boost the numbers, I think.
So I say that there's two different things here. The first thing is, yes, a lot of our policies are popular, and that Democrats will do better if they support like the majority of our policies. But I would say the second thing is just like a slight warning, like to all of our SuckDems and like lefties out there, like anyone, right? Is that just remember like just because we're right doesn't mean that like our opinions are like the most like presently advantageous things. Like I don't think they should like a politician should run on the abolishment of the commodity form. I don't think that's a reasonable thing. like expect, right?
I would like to see it just to see the response. Like obviously not a politician I needed to win, but I would like to see a politician run on that stuff just to see the Overton window move.
I mean, yeah, and that'd be fun, but it's like
yes.
So it's really just like giving about like what you think is viable, and I think every person who engages in electoralism has some like level of pragmatism, whether we want to admit it or not. Like, oh, like I'm not, because I don't, unless you're running, right, and you are completely unmoved by any other person's arguments or any like practical like changes you have to make to your platform.
Well, it feels like conservatives are a little bit more loosely bound to that because they sort of like push like agenda that nobody likes, and somehow I guess they just don't talk about it or lie. They lie a lot.
they lie a lot, and then they lie about Democrats, and then like they do like just bad framing stuff, and that's like the Democrats' fault for it's their fault for losing. Yeah,
yes.
Like you can't like when you lose, it's your problem. Like you did it. So trying to fix that sort of thing. So yeah, you just gotta But also, like, just a reminder.
Each time they try to do compromise or middle ground, and the conservatives keep running to the right, you know.
Oh yeah, you have to fight that. You know, it's like, and honestly, we kind of have done that, right? So like, there's don't make me defend Biden. I just like if he accomplishes like half of what his platform is, like as like stated, then like we're gonna be pretty good, at least like on the domestic stuff. Like, yes, 10% of the Green New Deal is not enough, but is $2 trillion better than $0 trillion? And like actively going in the wrong direction on climate? Yes, right? Is like a reduction of
yes.
is a reduction of coal better than and keeping a fracking better than like, you know, keeping coal and keeping fracking? Yes. Is it not ideal? Also, yes. Like, you can say those things and think they're both true. Like, Biden is bad, right? And it's like, I feel like a lot of times I feel like people's meters are broken, and it's like, there is bad and there is worse, and I'm just kind of like, all right, well, what do you mean? What do you want like me to say? What, zero trillion? Yes, radical reviewer, $0 trillion. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's not good at all. And so
I agree with you, but to be devil's advocate, since we shouldn't both agree, there exists a condition where this, like, the argument against incrementalism is that Biden's small improvements won't be good enough, and then if people expect it to be better than it was, then the conservatives will use that failure as a reason to move further right, even though it doesn't make logical sense. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It kind of happened with Obama too. People were a little bit fed up because, you know, even if things did improve under Obama, they expected more.
Correct, but it also pushed people further to the left. And so
it did do that. You're right.
Right. So the failure of the center always props up the, like, you know, I wouldn't call them I would call the right the fringe, but I wouldn't call, like, you know, left leaning fringe. It props up like the right, like the right and the left, right? The difference is the left has solutions to the problems, and the right just has a bunch of fear mongering and, like, you know, racism and fascism and, like, it's like, you know.
Well, we should have solutions if we talked about it more.
Like, I mean, fair. And so the failure of liberalism is an opportunity for the left. It is somewhat dangerous because, yes, it does empower the right as well, but we have to use that when we can, and then when we can stop the rise
to win primaries. God damn it!
Yeah, no, seriously, like, win primaries. Like,
that's
literally it. Like, everyone, like, guys, I know you don't like them, but like, register as a Democrat if it matters in your primary, because like, if you can elect an AOC as opposed to, you know, like a Connor Lamb,
Pelosi,
or Pelosi.
True.
Like, it's better, right? Like, again, like, you can say that she's not a real socialist and all sorts of shit, right? Like, oh, she's a social democrat. Oh, fucking, like, cool. Would you prefer like 300, you know, social democrats in Congress, or 10, like, and then 300 neolibs, like, and then like, you know, 100, you know, like, fascists? Like, there's no, like, you want, it's like the sympathetic, it's the sympathy argument, where I mean, we talked about this earlier, in that if you have left-leaning governments in, like, South America or the global South, right? If they're constantly being overthrown by the CIA, then, like, it doesn't matter how perfectly left they are. But what you need then is the government.
True. Then the conservative will blame the failures on like socialism instead of, like, the CIA.
Right. And so that what you need then is you want the power structure that exists to not be openly antagonistic to your movement. And I know there's a lot of arguments between Suck Dems and, like, ANCOMs and stuff, but we're not openly antagonistic, except on Twitter, because, you know, Twitter is a hellscape, and everywhere online is a hellscape. But, like,
infighting in the left.
But the
left eats itself.
But we're not.
The left eats their own.
It's all the time. But we're not actively, like, antagonistic, right? Like, if we had President Bernie Sanders, I feel like communist movements in the United States would probably do a bit better, right? Because there wasn't, like, a shit ton of, like, CIA psyops and shit trying to, like, mess with people, right? So it's like, those things matter. Having a sympathetic government matters. And am I saying Biden is sympathetic to the left? Absolutely fucking not. But does he call them the radical left and that they need to be shot and, like, retaliation needs to happen, like, for protesting? No, he doesn't do that.
Not yet.
No, you're right. And if he goes right, that's a problem. But again, like, I have not seen a reasonable argument that Joe Biden, policy-wise, morally, I do not give a shit, policy-wise, is anywhere as bad as Trump, or could be possibly anywhere as bad as Trump.
True.
And so, when you're thinking about what you want from that, it's just, you have to have that, like, that sense of perspective. And it's not fun, and it's not new, and like, nuance is never really fun, you know? It's always just like, oh, like, I guess this is marginally better. It's like, do I take my medicine, or like, you know, do I have and be sick for 3 days, or do I take my medicine? That's actually a bad analogy. What if, like, you know, you had something that would kill you quickly, or you had something that would kill you slowly over your lifetime, and you might find a cure, right? That's like what capitalism is, right? Like fascism.
Accelerationists would argue the first one.
Like, let's kill me. Like, no. Like, there's a new fascist left movement in the country. The violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa. Yeah, see Trump. Like, you know, the anti-fascists are the real fascists. Like, cool. Like, see, like, it's like the level of antagonism is different, and that's something that everyone needs to understand. So, you know, I don't think there's anything else to really say on that. Like, yes, like, they're marginally better. That doesn't mean they're good. Like, just because you defend somebody does not mean you agree with, like, everything they say. I think that's something that's kind of bad. And that, like, if I say, like, oh, this person has a good take, someone will throw, like, a million things, like, but they did this about me, like, da-da-da-da-da-da, right? Like, it's like when I was talking with Socialism Done Left earlier, he was like, hey, like, here's, like, this vegan, like, bodybuilder who's, like, you know, an eco-fascist, right? It doesn't mean that veganism is bad, right?
Not to mention there's different scales for each issue, like social versus, like, economic versus authoritative, you know, and you can be different on a lot of different things. So it's, like you said earlier, it's a big camp underneath the Democratic wing.
Yeah, and they have to, you know, and they feel like it's better for them to reach out to the right, and I think that's, like, you know, it's a really stupid electoral strategy. But yeah,
it keeps not working.
Yeah, I know. So it turns out when you say that Trump is the only problem in electoral politics, and the other Republicans are okay, and they'll be good when he's gone, people voted for Biden, but voted for, like, down ballot Republicans.
Yep.
Like, So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Sounds good. I have a few shout outs.
Go for it.
Hanz of Harkir.
You're ridiculous.
Everybody watch the videos. I mean, you're already doing that, but, you know, and the streams, which will be happening, I hear.
Thanks. Really appreciate it.
And that's all.
All right. I'll see you later, man.
See ya.
All right. So, is there anyone else that wants to come in and talk to me? Or do we want to start winding down the stream? All right. Say anything? Takers? Hate me? Destroy me with facts and logic? We all go to sleep? We have 11 viewers now. Okay, so new people are in. Hey guys, we're deciding what to do. Do you want to read news? Do you want to watch me? Do you want to watch me read news? What do you guys want to do? You want to play video games? Like, I'm down. I just need to know what you guys want. Talk to me, chat. Don't leave me alone. All right. Well, I think we did a good job tonight. It's been over 2 hours, and I really appreciate all of you coming down. You know, if you like what I have to say, I'll probably. Oh, I got 15 minutes to listen to the news. All right, cool. Let's do a small news stream. All right, so. All right, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Headlines with Hanz. Let's. What do you guys want to hit first? You want to do want to talk about student debt? What's new when it's going down? Not sure what you're talking about, but all right. So let's just get started on this one then. So What about tackling the causes of student debt? So this is a common thing often. So Joe Biden recently expressed support for legislation that would forgive the first $10,000 of anyone's student loan debt. But with Democrat control of the Senate in doubt, the odds of major legislation are uncertain. That's why some are pushing the incoming administration to use executive action to unilaterally forgive loans. While the legality of such an action is up for debate, a bigger question looms: what happens if we forgive student loans without changing the system that produces? The case for forgiveness rests on some staggering numbers. Total American outstanding student loan debt is now $1.7 trillion, weighing down borrowers who are struggling to make housing payments and cover medical bills during the pandemic. A recent report from the Roosevelt Institute found that the wealth gap between white and black recent college graduates increased by over 50% 2000 to 2018, in part because of higher borrowing by black students. $10,000 forgiveness plan would help the many debtors who struggle with repayment despite owing relatively small amounts, often after dropping out of college. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer have proposed a more ambitious plan to forgive the first $50,000. All right, so starting with this, so everyone knows the student loan the crisis is a crisis. I have student loan debt. If you're watching me, I know my demographics. You probably have student loan debt, and none of those things are good. But there is a good question as to like how to help people immediately, and then also make sure that this crisis doesn't end, right? So because even if you have, say, if you make tuition free at public institutions, cool. People still have to borrow though for like housing. So if someone has like a housing has to like take a loan out to like have a housing thing at their like university, they still might have debt. So even like Bernie Sanders' proposal for college might not have eliminated like all the debt that would have existed in the future, right? So there's a couple of things you have to like take into account. So let's read on, and then we'll go through some more basic or long-form analysis. So the American higher education system is a gigantic debt-producing machine with no one at the controls. I would say that's kind of this is something that actually is really important for framing from the New York Times themselves. Is often they don't specifically put names to problems. They're like, oh hey, like there's this industry like is an issue, but like no one controls it. Like it's too big like to really think about. But they could really they could talk about the heads of student loans, of like loan agencies, or all these sorts of things that are federally backed. Like you can look at like that sort of complex, like the student loan complex, in terms of like different companies providing student loans, and like whether they lobby politicians or not. So this is something specifically in the editorial bias of the New York Times, that they very much don't like putting blame for systems onto like different people. And so, that in mind, let's keep reading. So, the Department of Education limits the size of federal loans to undergrads, but not to graduate students. Nor does it limit how much parents can borrow to help send their children to college. So, there's a limit how much you can borrow. Your parents, because they might be helping you, and they might not be able to afford it either, because if there's a limit to how much you can borrow, you might need to borrow more. There's no limit to how much your parents can get. So, that means we have a potential explosion if we don't fix like the underlying causes of problems. So, if nothing else changed, the day after any kind of mass loan forgiveness went into effect, the tide of debt would begin rising again. To stem further borrowing, Mr. Biden proposed a version of the free college plan popularized by Senator Bernie Sanders. The Biden proposal would make 2 years of community college free, eliminate undergraduate tuition at public universities for students of families earning less than $125,000, and subsidize the cost of historically black colleges. Emergency financial support for state and local governments would reduce the need for the kind of university budget cuts that lead to steep tuition increases and more borrowing during past recessions. Mr. Biden has also proposed doubling the size of the federal Pell Grant program for low-income students. All of these depend on Senate approval, which is far from a sure thing. Collectively, they would substantially reduce indebtedness among undergrads attending public universities. So, first, let's respond to War Dude 12110. What's your opinion on the relationship between Joe and Mitch? Where they have a history? So, this is a potential good thing and a potential bad thing. Most likely a bad thing because most Democrats compromise on Republican terms. So this means that Biden might be successful legislatively from a legislative perspective of passing legislation. Like he might be able to get those compromises through like the Senate, right? And I mean, legislation might be good, but legislation isn't inherently good in and of itself. Like you want good legislation to be passed. I would prefer no legislation over bad legislation, right? Like legislating in and of itself is not an achievement. So this is my frustration with people who say like, oh, like I want bipartisanship and reaching across the aisle. It doesn't really matter if someone's reaching across the aisle if what they're reaching across the aisle to do is bad. So I have no doubt that they're likely going to do some terrible things together. And they're going to compromise. Biden's going to compromise on Republican terms, and they're going to pass things that have the rubber stamp of Mitch McConnell. And that doesn't sound good to me. So I think that's a negative in terms of things that might, in terms of legislation passed by the Biden administration. Other things about Biden's college plan. So when you look at the different pieces, right? So first 2 years of community college free. Great. So if you work at home, like if you live with your parents, years 19 and 20, college is free because if you're living at home and you go to college around home, then there you go. There's a problem that, hey, maybe not everyone has access to community college like around their local area, so that could be a problem. So thinking about that, what it means is have people who earn less than that much money getting help. That's really good. Like that's better than that. But what that means is if you make $126,000, now you might be screwed. If there's not a gradient, that's a problem. And there's other issues in terms of making this a welfare program. So here's what I mean, and here's what a lot of people mean in terms of the efficaciousness of public programs. If a public program does not benefit everybody, it normally becomes much less popular. It said it got lost for a second. I cut out for a second. And so what this means is now that when we have this situation, every person who makes more than that will have some kind of anger, and they can likely afford college if they make more than that. It's not going to be good, but they can probably afford it, especially for the lower echelon. If you make 125K, 150K, which already puts you in the upper echelon of society, it's still expensive to send your kids to school. But those people will be resentful, and then those people are vulnerable to Republican tactics. And what that means is there's a danger of making public programs very means tested based. Because if you have means testing, then suddenly things become a lot less popular. You can look at this in the popularity of programs like Medicare versus programs like Medicaid. People like Medicare because everyone gets it. If you live that long. But not everyone gets Medicaid, and there's constantly more talks about reforming or cutting Medicaid compared to Medicare. So that's the trade-off you're getting there. It might be easier to pass because that means more libs might get on board. The problem is it's going to be more easily attacked by Republicans because the idea just isn't. So taking that into account. Then subsidizing the cost of historically black colleges. I don't see a problem with that. More college subsidization is a good thing, and the black community has a disproportionate amount of people who are poor or coming from worse conditions. So materially benefiting them specifically, we'll see a problem with that. So, and then provide emergency financial support to state and local governments to reduce the need of university budget cuts and help lower tuition increases and more borrowing during past sessions. So what this means is you solve the initial problem. That's very important. You get rid of a shit ton of student debt. You get rid of a ton of it. But the problem what they're talking about is how do you make sure that it doesn't happen again? You solve the problem once, but you don't solve any of the underlying causes, it's going to be a problem. It's like if you get sick and then you get better, but you do all the things. Sorry, it's like if you get hurt while working out, then you get better and you go back to working out, but you don't fix your technique or your style of what you're doing, you're going to get hurt again. And that's not good. Then when you get hurt again, it's just going to keep happening. Holy shit, we went from 3 to 11 viewers at once. That makes me feel better. And so what you're looking at then is how do you make sure that a problem is constantly solved and not just immediately. And so that's something that a lot of people don't think about in terms of long-term planning, right? They're oh, if we just fix this problem, it'll be over. But most policy is more complicated than that. It's oh, hey, if we fix the Middle East, it's we just pull out of Afghanistan. All right, cool. Now suddenly the area is overrun by different armed militia groups and all sorts of stuff, and people are attacked and oppressed. Okay, so what's our long-term plan for stability, right? Obviously it's failing from a serious perspective. So but we have to have long-term solutions, and those aren't sexy, those aren't fun, those require constant vigilance, right? this has actually happened a lot, like economic benefits taken away from people. So what I mean by that is there were a lot of economic protections put in place during the New Deal, and they were systematically destroyed over the last 80 years. And so this is something that's very common, and this is a point against social democracy and liberal democracy in general, is that any benefit that you create can be rolled back eventually. Any problem that you solve can be recreated with policy. And so when you're thinking about how do you fix this, you have to look into long-term solutions that require hopefully less vigilance, but if they require constant problem solving, you have to keep fixing it. You can't just solve student debt, and then wait 20 years and then solve it again, right? Because if we solve it and don't do anything with it, it's just gonna happen again. And that requires more systemic change in a way that you can't just pay money, right? It's very easy for the U.S. government to write a check or waive certain debt that it students. It's very difficult to change the underlying conditions that created the debt bubble in the. And so when we're looking at that, you have to take into account complex things, and this is something that a lot of people don't like talking about. That's totally fine because it's not fun. Right? We're gonna be talking now about how do you make sure that people who have bet on student debt or own student debt are compensated. Is it just gonna be a check? Is there going to be issues with inflation? Do we do this over a period of a year? Do we do this over a period of 5 years? Do we freeze the debt? All sorts of stuff. And I would say in this case, the best solution is canceling the student debt, over a period of time to make sure that doesn't damage inflation. Then you reform the system to ensure that students aren't going to go into debt to do these things, whether it's Republicans, not just tuition, but housing, right? So there's other countries that do this relatively well, is that they give them the living stipend on top of just tuition being free. So what that means is now you don't have kids going into debt to pay for housing for college, just like they shouldn't be going into debt for tuition. So if you solve those things, long term, the debt bubble won't grow again because it doesn't need to grow. Cool. That's Biden plan doesn't go far enough. There are holes in it. It's a welfare program, so it's going to be more easily attacked by Republicans if it gets through. There's a opportunity for him to try and forgive some parts of student debt by executive order. The Supreme Court, which is now full of right-wing Republicans who are traditionalists, whatever the fuck that means, aren't going to do very well, and that could be slapped down in the highest court in the land. That's not very good either. But it's better than just letting the crisis continue to. So, all right. Well, that was that one. Thank you. That was really fun. Well, going forward, I'll probably have some news stuff pulled up and ready for all of us to go through together, and then we can vote on them as a chat to decide what you. I want to thank all of you for. Let's keep growing the channel. Let's keep having fun. I'm going to do another stream tomorrow, starting at 7 again, and I hope to see all of you there. So hopefully, yeah, have a lot of fun with it.